Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 285 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield. I'm here to host the show, but we're also doing a Sifted Fantasy Draft today. One of the biggest news stories, probably from the last 10 years, dropped right before the show. Activision Blizzard is being purchased by Microsoft. We're going to discuss that. It's going to be insane. The next 3 hours are going to be insane. Alongside me for all this insanity is Matthew Kyle. What's up, Matt?
I don't know. What happened in the last 15 minutes?
I know. It's crazy. It was a scramble to get ready for the Microsoft Activision Blizzard thing, to get it in the show. Yeah. It is in the show. We're going to discuss it at length.
I woke up pretty late today, and I looked at my phone, and everyone in every text and chat I had was talking about the Activision Blizzard thing. And there was a moment where I'm like, am I still asleep? I actually rubbed my eyes to look at the link with the title. I'm like, Microsoft did what?
I know. I thought it was like is it April Fool's Day?
Yeah, a little early for that.
Big news. We're going to talk about it at length right here off the top of the show. A couple things to get to before we do that, though. First of all, Ask Shane Anything. This Saturday, we're recording a new episode. For those of you who pledge $7 or more per month at patreon.com/sifted, you can be a part of the recording. It's basically just a podcast that I host with all of you guys. That'll be going down on noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Look for all the deets on that on our Patreon leading up to the show. The Sifted Fantasy Challenge, which is the fantasy the fantasy video game league that everyone can participate in, should be live right now. We've been working on it the last couple of days. The plan was to turn it live right at 1. It should be live right now. So anyway, if you guys got in that last year, it's a fantasy league for video games where you pick 10 games. They're weighted, so your first pick is way more important than your 10th pick. Just so you know, the winner last year was the only person to have all 10 games released in the year. Everybody else had at least one game missing, so just be conservative when you're picking your games. I will have promotion up for that at Sifted.net a little later today. So if you guys are like, I don't want to worry about it right now while I'm watching the stream, totally get it. There'll be promotion pushing to the page later on this afternoon at Sifted.net. A couple other things about the broadcast today. So we're going to do GameFace. Initially, I thought it was going to be really short. I know people laugh when I say that. But initially, we thought it was going to be really short, and then this news drops about Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. But we're still going to try to keep it a little short because we have a couple things to accomplish today. One is an episode of GameFace. Again, hopefully a little shorter. Then we're going to stop the stream. Well, we won't stop the stream, but we're going to go away for about 2 minutes, set up everything for the Sifted Video Game Fantasy Draft, and then come back and do that. And then Matt and I are actually going to, off air, we're going to have a discussion about Rainbow Six Extraction. He and I have been playing it for a while, and the embargo is tomorrow. So we can't talk about it live on the show today on the stream. After the stream's over, Matt and I are going to discuss it. It will be in the archive of the show tomorrow. So for those of you who watch the stream every week, and there's a ton of you, and it's awesome, and we appreciate it. But for those of you who do that, there will be a bonus segment in the archive of the show tomorrow discussing Rainbow Six Extraction. So much to get to. Matt, I never get nervous doing this show, ever. But I was nervous today. Like when you got here, I was kind of frantic. I was like, I don't know what it's like to have anxiety, but I think this might be kind of like it. I was panicking a little bit.
A lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving pieces, and I'm sitting here as kind of like the DJ of the show, running the clips and the graphics while I'm trying to have an intelligent discussion with Matt. And when shows like this pop up, the pressure is on. So hopefully everything goes well today. If I make a mistake here or there, please forgive me. It is a lot for one person to have on their plate. Normally for a show like this, you'd have a show team of 5 people doing all this stuff, and it's just me. So if there's some little mistake here or there, please forgive me. I'm doing my best here. I wish I could hire a staff of 5 people to run GameFace. That would be awesome. That's just not where we're at. So again, GameFace, 5-minute break, Sifted Video Game Fantasy Draft for 2022. Then we take the stream down, and then Matt and I record our discussion on Rainbow Six Extraction, which will be in the archive of episode 285 when you guys all watch it tomorrow. One other thing. I know it's crazy. We're about to launch a brand new podcast on Sifted. It is going to debut on Monday. It is short. It's going to be 20 to 30 minutes, but it's going to be every day. I don't want to ruin too much about it. I want you guys to kind of be surprised when you check it out for the first time. It is going to be audio only. So if you haven't hooked up your Sifted Radio podcast feed yet, I highly recommend that you do that. But it is going to be a podcast that is launched every day. Well, Monday through Friday anyway, not on the weekends. But every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there will be a podcast sitting in your podcast feed first thing in the morning. That's the other important part of it, too. It's going to be first thing in the morning every day, Monday through Friday going forward. I'm really excited about this. I'm nervous about it, like everything else right now. Apparently, I'm completely insane right now. But I hope you guys like it, and you better check it out on next Monday. And now I think that's really it. I think it's time to kick the show off proper, and we're not going to keep you guys waiting. We're going to kick things off with, as I said at the show open, probably the biggest news story in the last maybe decade. Can you think of another one that's maybe bigger?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the gravity of what we're talking about here.
in terms of especially in terms of things that like send reverberations out beyond just the industry and into the kind of the financial markets in general, and this will be reported on mainstream news.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Without any question. This is I can't think of anything really. It's this is the end of not the end. Activision's going to continue as a subsidiary of Microsoft. I was playing Activision games on the Atari 2600.
I know.
Like Activision's
they were
been
the
there
best
forever.
games for the Atari 2600.
Oh yeah, they had that weird cartridge shape. They looked a little better.
Yeah.
Cosmic Arc was
They were
great.
the best. They were all great.
Microsoft should do a new Cosmic Arc.
All of them. They were all great. They were River Raid, my favorite Atari 2600 game. Yep.
Made by a woman.
Was. Yeah. So this is big news and something that strikes a chord with Matt and I going back to our very first days in video games. I was an Activision fan. Activision may have been the first gaming company I was a fanboy of.
Mm-hmm. When you saw that weird silver cartridge with the little lip on the end, you knew that was going to be
one of the
quality.
good ones.
Yeah,
it's not going to be one of the trashy games. So this company goes way back with us before it was ever a part of Blizzard and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of emotion, I feel, from this story. And the base of the story is that Microsoft has acquired Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, as Pachter would say. Billion. That's 60...
with a B.
Yes, almost $69 billion.
Yeah, and that is where I think you need to bring in the whole, because people's like billion, million, da, 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 as the old comparison thing goes. A million seconds is about 3 months.
Right.
And a billion seconds is 33 years.
It's insane.
The difference between a billion and a million is a lot.
Yeah. Before we get going, though, I do want to thank people for Twitch Prime because we ask you to do that. And if you do it, I want to make sure that we bring it up. And I saw some people were contributing. Darth Irv, thank you for Twitch Prime. Casey Wright, thank you for Twitch Prime. Who else got in here? Talimper, Mitch Sikorsky, thank you for Twitch Prime. Casuality, thank you. Anyone else? Vincent, dropping bits. Thanks, man. That's awesome, dude. What else? Anyone else? Classy Mr. Barto, Panda Jerk 007, Petor91. How you doing, Petor? Hope you're doing good. And I think that's it for the top of the show. Everybody, a lot of people subscribed in last week's episode because we finally came back from the holidays. Okay. Let's get back to this. Let's talk about Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. So, Matt, you can see the lower third there. It says game over. Mm-hmm. Am I being overzealous with that lower third?
In what game is over?
Microsoft owning the console space.
No.
Not
a chance.
Okay.
Sony's still there. I think Sony will become more of a boutique thing, but I think this is going to cut into the way that PlayStation 5 is doubling the sales of the Xbox. No, not this generation. Maybe next generation.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's better if we talk about what the implications are of it. So, Activision Blizzard owns Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, StarCraft, Crash Bandicoot. Do they own Spyro still?
No.
They don't.
I think someone else owns Spyro now.
Okay. Those are huge IP. That's huge IP.
Yeah.
Why?
Who does own Spyro? Maybe Activision does own Spyro. I can't remember.
I can't remember who owns Spyro, honestly. I know they own Crash, obviously, which has turned out to be a hugely successful IP somehow. I'm not a huge Crash fan, but a lot of people do like Crash, and the recent games have sold extraordinarily well. So, Matt, are all these properties, and Microsoft has been a little cagey about it so far as what it's going to do with the IP. All it has said really is that the two companies will operate independently until it happens.
Right.
So they're not going to tell Activision Blizzard what to do until the deal is signed, sealed, and delivered.
And that could take 2 years.
Could it take that long?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That adds a different angle to it for me then.
You got to. I mean, probably as presumably it's been approved of it, but like the actual merging company, when we were merging Comcast and NBC and NBC Universal, that took at least 2 years. That was like from the point where it was announced it was happening publicly to the actual like, okay, we are NBC Universal employees now. It was almost 2 years.
Now the Bethesda deal that took what, 6 months from they announcing it to sealing the deal.
But Bethesda is a smaller company.
It's smaller, but 2 years maybe seems a little long.
Might be, but like I don't. Also, like there's tons of stuff in the development pipeline, like that. Development pipeline. Like, does this mean Overwatch 2 is not going to come to PlayStation?
I mean,
Probably
the bigger
not.
question is, does it mean that Call of Duty is no longer coming to PlayStation?
I mean, I think it. Well, yeah, I think that it won't. Will Warzone be discontinued on PlayStation? Probably not. Will the next,
because it's free to play,
and I don't know how long it's going to take for that Call of Duty. The next Call of Duty to be exclusive. You know what I mean? Like, that might be 2 years from now. Eventually it will happen because you don't spend $70 billion on something to give your competition content. But, like, it might be 2024 before the first exclusive Call of Duty that's only exclusive to Xbox and PC shows up.
Do you think, though, that...
And then you're going to have a lot of Call of Duty bros on PlayStation who don't pay attention to the news being like, where's Call of Duty this year? Why do I need an Xbox to play Call of Duty?
I mean, I think the messaging will get out there, though.
It will.
And how powerful do you think that is, though? I mean, look, both manufacturers have had trouble getting enough consoles out to consumers. Neither one of them, I mean, granted, PlayStation 5 is outselling it roughly 2-1, the Xbox Series X right now, but the lead isn't that big because neither has been able to produce a lot of consoles. So once this news is out there and the average Joe knows about it, do you think it impacts their purchase decision at all?
It probably would. I mean, I think there are definitely people who only buy consoles to play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the majority of the audience, but
I don't either.
You are talking about probably selling Xboxes or maybe, those people generally don't have gaming PCs. You're probably looking at selling a lot of Xboxes to people who would not have otherwise bought an Xbox because they want one game console to play Call of Duty on, and that's all they care about.
But then you start talking about the other stuff, the other IP, and it's kind of compounding there.
Yeah, there's some there. It depends what they do with it. Like, does this mean Diablo 4 is only going to be on Xbox and PC? Maybe. Like, that's far enough down the road that they could theoretically do that.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2, you got to wonder, like, are they not going to support... there clearly a lot of work has already been done on every version of that. Are you just going to throw away the PlayStation work?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what the answer to that. Maybe? I don't know. Like, the question is, like, do you think that's going to win you any favors or win you some Xbox purchases? Or do you think it's just going to piss off a bunch of PlayStation players who might then not ever buy your stuff?
Do you think Call of Duty is going to be day one on Game Pass?
Could be.
I mean, it kind of has to be, right?
I mean, after the merger is complete, like, theoretically, that is their party line, that everything first party goes on Game Pass the day of. That's an interesting question. I mean...
Again, my mind is just swimming.
Buy an Xbox, subscribe to Xbox Live Game Pass, and play Call of Duty without spending $60 every year. That's a pretty fucking good deal.
You pay for your console in the 5 years, just not buying Call of Duty. Think about that.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about all the other IP. It's like, this doesn't hurt PC at all, obviously.
No. There's
PC gamers, it's going to be the same deal.
There.
It's not going to change, other than the fact you'll probably get all these games on Game Pass. But PlayStation owners, I mean, here's the other thing, Matt.
Some of the chat people are asking, do Warcraft subscriptions get added to Game Pass? Like, do you get access to World of Warcraft just because you're a Game Pass subscriber?
That's possible, too.
That's a question. Yeah.
There's so much to consider. It's almost overwhelming. So...
And it is a big bonus for PC Game Pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in terms of where you can get your games, like PC, obviously they're already on PCs. But in terms of, like...
Diablo 4.
Yeah, suddenly PC Game Pass just got real good. Like, Diablo.
Here's the thing about Activision Blizzard, is that it really is kind of a PC developer.
Stevid making it rain over there.
What'd you say? Oh, Lestevid, thank you, man, for gifting all the subs. to
Or is it
our audience.
Le Steve D? I don't know. Like, I don't remember. Did he tell us how to pronounce that?
He didn't. I just say Lesteved.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for
But
years.
his name's in there, so maybe it's just Le Steve D.
Le
I don't
Steve
know.
D. It may be, yeah. Activision Blizzard is primarily a PC developer. I mean, let's be honest. It's Activision's console support has fallen off pretty drastically in the last 5 or 6 years. We get stuff here and there like Crash or Sekiro, Crash Team Racing, stuff like that. But it's not really a in Call of Duty, obviously, but it's not really a prolific console developer anymore.
No.
It's really PC-centric.
Yeah, but also if you... Like, the thing about this is there's so much IP that Activision owns they just don't do anything with.
Right.
And Microsoft wants to exploit that. They can, they can hand that out to other companies if they want.
That's true.
You want a Crash game made by, Rare?
Yeah.
See what
It
that
can
looks
happen.
like?
Yeah.
That could happen. Crash Team Racing by Turn 10, like make them do that.
Right.
Yeah. Or Playground.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that stuff works.
Crash and his carts might show up in Forza Horizon 6.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So that's kind of my question, though, is because Blizzard dominates most of the development between Activision Blizzard, and Blizzard is pretty much a PC developer, maybe that's a reason why it isn't game over.
Mm-hmm. Some of that. I mean, I don't think the things Activision holds makes it impossible. And there's other factors, too. It's like Sony... Sony's system is going to be even more of an exclusive, like a boutique console, as they say. You're there for their content, first-party content. But even then, that first-party content is trickling onto PC now.
It is.
After the fact, but
but it's still there.
It's still going to be there eventually. It looks like, and the God of War port was really good by all. So it's not like a Horizon thing where it was kind of broken and had to get fixed. Like they're getting there. Like, yeah.
Like if this doesn't move the needle for Microsoft. Is there
Andy Monahan makes another good point. Toys for Bob is included in this. They they made all those really cool games, and
here's the list.
That's a really big get for Microsoft. They don't have an equivalent of that.
Here's a list of studios. So Activision Publishing, Blizzard, obviously, Beanox, Demonware, Digital Legends, High Moon Studios, Infinity Ward, King, Major League Gaming, Radical Entertainment.
King's a big one.
Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Toys for Bob, Treyarch, and any other small team that's there.
Tony Hawk.
I mean, this is insane.
Yeah.
How do you even come up with a price for all this? Like, how do you get to that number?
Apparently, you just imagine numbers until one gets big enough. Also, like, Microsoft could take some of those very talented teams and take them off Call of Duty Kitchen Patrol.
Right.
Like High Moon Studios is too good to be stuck making maps for multiplayer shit.
Yeah.
Like, put Raven back on something. Let them do some things again. Like, that would be great. I'd love to see those developers become developers again and not just cogs in the Call of Duty machine.
I don't know. It feels like this
And Sony can't do anything in response to
can't.
this. Like,
It can't
I've seen
afford-
people, it's like, oh, Sony and Nintendo will team up. And I'm like, no, they won't.
What?
Like, Nintendo would never do that. Nintendo doesn't need to do that.
Why would Nintendo? I mean, Sony's kind of the weakest hand right now.
And also, like, and the same thing with, like, Sony should buy Square. I've seen Sony should buy Ubisoft. Sony can't afford to buy any of that.
People
They
don't
don't
get
have
it.
that kind of money.
People
They
don't
don't
get it.
have that kind of money.
Sony could never pay $69 billion for anything.
No.
It doesn't have $69 billion.
It might not be worth $69 billion.
Like, as a whole.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to see how this isn't going to affect things big time. I do think that you're right in a sense that it will take a while before the tide starts to turn. But the first year that Call of Duty is exclusive to Xbox, I feel like that's the moment. Mm-hmm. That's when everybody...
it will definitely be a sea change.
That's when
No question.
everybody gets it. When, as you said, some people who don't use websites like Sifted or whatever and don't know what's going on in the industry...
And Sneaky Charlotte Snake does make a good point. Like, he says, I will take Sony's games over Microsoft even after this. I agree.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not disagreeing with that.
For sure. But for the people who aren't in it for, like, kind of the art of the thing and the boutique of the game kind of thing, like, who have to pick a system, Call of Duty being on that system is going to make a big deal. It's
I
gonna
also
make
think,
that
too, that
decision pretty easy for a lot of people.
I also think that eventually Microsoft's first-party offerings are going to be as good as PlayStation's. But again, it's 2 years still down the road. Like,
at the same time, even looking 2 years down the road for all the, and there's some, obviously there's a bunch of stuff they're working on at Microsoft that I'm excited about and interested in. Do I see anything that could stand toe-to-toe with God of War Ragnarok? No.
Unless Hellblade becomes
Hellblade becomes something, unless Fable becomes something infinitely beyond what we're expecting it to be. Like, it would have to be, unless Starfield comes out of the gate in a form that we just aren't aware of. Like, unless Avowed is a home run on the level of Skyrim on their first try, stuff like that. But in terms of like what I'm in my head, what I'm expecting and picturing like God of War Ragnarok to be, like, Microsoft doesn't have anything like that in the stable.
There's a few franchises that Sony has that I don't see Microsoft competing with immediately. Mm-hmm. But I do think in a couple years that question will at least be on the table, and then you have the whole lineup of Activision Blizzard in addition to all those other first-party studios starting to hit. Bethesda finally starting to talk about the next Elder Scrolls. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like it's this little pebble that's rolling down a hill covered in snow, and right now it's only rolled over a couple times. But in 2 years, it's going to get to the bottom of that hill, and it's going to be a freaking boulder.
Yeah. And it may not like make a big difference to maybe me or Sneaky Snake or people who have certain interest in game, but it is going to make a big difference in the wider market, in the industry as a whole. Like,
there's no bigger casual franchise than Call of Duty. There's no better way to message to most players who purchase games that, hey, we're in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, and Dan Boy 90 makes an interesting point. Is there a point at which Microsoft realizes Sony is so over the barrel that they come and say, we'd like to put Game Pass on PlayStation?
Yeah, I don't think that'll ever happen, though.
Maybe not, but like
they may ask.
If you at some point you could maybe strike that deal for a really advantageous sum on Microsoft's end.
I would be curious, and I don't know this.
I think Sony would be too insular and proud to take that ever.
I am curious, like, I don't know this figure off the top of my head of, if you look at a platform holder, what percentage, and it's different for each one, obviously, but what percentage of like Sony's revenue comes from its first-party games versus the licensing fees it gets from third-party game sales? Because I think people will keep buying PlayStation hardware to play PlayStation exclusives.
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
If you lose all your third-party sales, how much does that impact you?
Well, if I were Sony and I can't afford to buy Square or take whatever, my number one priority right now would be turning Grand Theft Auto 6 into an exclusive or a timed exclusive.
Whatever you got to give them.
Whatever you need to do to make it so people have to own a PlayStation to play Grand Theft Auto 6.
Because
that is your only move right now.
$2 billion is a lot cheaper than $69 billion.
Right.
And you're right. If you want to keep your head, and we mentioned this.
Yeah, we did talk about
like
that
a few months ago, like what it would take to make Grand Theft Auto exclusive. And I think we settled in at like $2 billion. Yeah. And that might be worth the investment for PlayStation to lock down the next Grand Theft Auto exclusive.
Unless Microsoft beats them.
Right. And Microsoft does.
And they could.
And it could. It could totally happen. It could buy Take-Two. I think what everyone's understanding right now.
And if you think Microsoft's not on the phone to Square, like, hey, you want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2? We have that one timed exclusive. So the first one was timed exclusive, or maybe not timed exclusive because it still hasn't come to Xbox.
Yeah.
Xbox. To Xbox. My mouth is very weird today.
There's too much to talk about and not enough time. Let's be honest. I'm trying to get things out as quickly as possible, too.
Yeah, we're all doing like a Micro Machines commercial.
Yeah, because there's a lot to get to. I guess maybe the bigger question that a lot of people maybe want to hear from us on is this wrong? Is this a monopoly? Is this an antitrust issue? Is this bad for the industry in general?
I mean, it might be bad for the industry, as a trend. It is not a monopoly. It is not an antitrust
because there's still dozens and dozens of publishers out there.
The real value of Activision is IP. Activision does not. That's the thing that people don't get with monopoly stuff. Even when they accuse Disney of it, it's like it would be a monopoly for Disney to buy Fox if Disney then owned all the means to create movies.
Right.
If you wanted to make a movie and you had to go to Disney and get cameras from them, that would be a monopoly. You cannot have a monopoly on ideas. And basically what Microsoft has done here is they paid $69 billion for a bunch of very successful ideas. And theoretically, I mean, in the capitalist free market sense, if you want to compete with that, all you need to do is have a better idea.
Yeah.
Which is not actually true in... that's true on paper. It's not true in the real world.
It doesn't always work out that way,
right?
Unfortunately.
But it would be bad to end up with Microsoft owning all the third parties and Sony and Nintendo sort of doing their own thing in the shadow of this monolith.
Well, the other thing too is that Microsoft has been far more apt to work with Nintendo than it has been to work with PlayStation.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of that is Microsoft. Like Sony just doesn't want to do anything with anybody.
Right.
Like Sony's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's like the closed garden with Sony.
Yeah. Even people who just work with them on like a tangential sort of PR or marketing basis have stories of how hard it is to deal with Sony.
Yep.
To the point that it's just like, just tell us what we're doing, and they won't. It's very weird.
It is weird.
And Nintendo, you think Nintendo would have a silver, but they don't. I don't know any horror stories of working with Nintendo as kind of a contractor or a PR person or a freelance thing like that. Sony is the one.
What I do know about Nintendo is that it's run by Japan.
Yeah, so is Sony though.
Yeah, and whatever Nintendo of Japan says, Nintendo of America does it.
Now the trick is that I think Nintendo Japan has a much better idea of what they want to do and where they want to go than Sony of Japan does, or Sony Computer Entertainment Japan does. As successful as the PlayStation division is, it always feels like they are sort of, I don't know. Like there's part of me that wants to make a comparison to Microsoft a few years ago, where like you just felt like Microsoft had 3 games and they were just doing the same thing over and over and sort of coasting, and you're like, why are you coasting?
Like Microsoft did for 8 years.
Yeah,
straight.
that's what I'm talking about. Microsoft doing, but like now they're doing, like Sony's doing the same thing. It's just that they have much higher quality games they're coasting on.
Yeah.
Right? And a bigger variety.
It has more franchises.
Yeah, bigger variety. Like, it's like, it's not 2 shooters and a racing game.
But they're also every 5 years instead of every 2 years, or every year in some cases for Microsoft. What about Bobby Kotick? Apparently, there was a rumor that he was going to stay. Now there's a rumor that he's going to go.
Oh, there is not if I paid $70 billion for something, then one of my first things to do is to get rid of Bobby Kotick.
They're also saying he's going to get paid out $17 billion by this sale.
I mean, a lot of the reason this sale happened, I'm sure, is because the alleged corporate shitheads in charge of Activision had no interest or ability to fix any of the issues
How about this irony, Matt?
And now they're all going to get richer and bail out and never have to worry about it again.
These executives created this toxic environment working there. And now they're going to sell the company using that as an excuse to sell the company, which is going to pay them untold riches.
The net result of allowing these things to happen to his employees is that Bobby Kotick gets $17 billion richer.
I know. It's insane.
And that's the end.
That to me is the part that sucks.
That's the game over.
Yeah, it is. Like, I don't feel like this is a monopoly at all. If anything, I feel like it's just kind of putting Microsoft on equal footing with PlayStation. There are still dozens and dozens of publishers out there that PlayStation can buy if it wants to. I would say that this is capitalism 101. If you have money, it's a lot easier to make more money. And Microsoft has finally decided to show everybody how much money it has. We've been telling people on this show, Microsoft has more money than God. And it's one of these statements that you make that it just kind of flies.
Those executives did not make that a $7 billion company. The employees made that a $70 billion company.
What, is someone trying to say that it's the
one Supermaster Gamer, that is not what happened. The executive didn't do shit. No.
Oh, man.
No.
Supermaster Gamer must be a CEO or something. I mean, I technically am, and I still would never say that. But I think what we're seeing now is something that people ignore when we would say it. Is like, you don't understand. Microsoft has more money than you can even comprehend. And like we've all kind of been sitting waiting for them, like, okay, like, when are you going to do something with it? And now they are. And it's not illegal. It's not dirty. You only think it's dirty or wrong if you're a PlayStation fan. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're a PlayStation fanboy, you're pissed off. You're like, that's not fair. That's not right. That's the only people who feel that way. Anyone who's ever worked in business or worked in capitalism knows this is how it works. This is what it is. And we haven't even brought up like King and Candy Crush.
Yeah, Bobby Kotick did make that company what it is today, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and now he's using it to bail out on it and get rich.
The billionaires don't need your defense, kids.
Yeah, they really don't.
Knock it off. Bobby Kotick can cry himself to sleep on his huge pillow of money because of the mean things I said about him. Fuck that guy.
Well, I will say this: Pachter defends Bobby Kotick a lot, but Pachter.
Well, I haven't drunk whiskey with Bobby
Capitalist.
Kotick, so I don't know.
But again, it's capitalism. That's all it is. Love it or hate it. That's the way it works.
And I don't hate it.
Yeah,
but I do hate them.
Yeah,
like those guys that did that.
Here's the other thing too: you don't have to be dirty to be successful in capitalism. You don't.
No, like we're not hearing no stories come out of Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah.
How in the world did some of those guys not have that? I don't know.
How did this story not leak?
That is an excellent question.
I mean, how does this not leak?
I'll tell you why. Because this isn't game development. This is big business.
Yeah.
And that doesn't leak.
That's true.
The NDAs on that have jail time attached to them sometimes. Like like this isn't like somebody left a laptop with an Assassin's Creed concept art like on a plane. Like this is the big shit.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't hear about this stuff because of legal restrictions that are outside of the deal. You know, like they had to go through government approvals to get this stuff like that. That stuff is real serious.
So, Matt, let's fast forward 3 years from now. What's going to be happening in 3 years?
I mean, presumably most of the Activision IP that has then been started development or projects of it have started since the purchase started to kind of the merger started to begin will start to become released only on Microsoft's chosen platforms.
Yeah.
And that will be that. Will that matter? I don't know. Like, does it matter that Diablo 4 maybe doesn't come out on PlayStation?
No,
not really.
Much. Yeah, a little bit, but not much.
Like, if this was a different situation where like Microsoft was only Xbox and this meant Diablo was leaving PC, like if you wanted to play Diablo 4, you had to buy an Xbox. That would be a bigger deal. Mostly, I think the trick here is that Call of Duty is going to be only in the Xbox environment after a certain amount of time, and that is a sea change. That is a thing that may not matter. I mean, is that going to affect me at all personally? No,
you don't play
not at all. I don't play Call of Duty, but it's going to affect millions of other people.
I saw someone in chat say that it takes a lot of money and a lot of marketing to reach the mass audience to message this, but it doesn't. All it takes is that first Call of Duty release only on Xbox. That's it. Mm-hmm. As you said, people who don't pay attention, that's when they will have no choice but to know. Mm-hmm. When they go to try to buy Call of Duty on their PlayStation 5. It's like you don't have to pay for any marketing or any messaging. It will happen all on its own. As soon as people are like, oh, it's November 10th, time to go out and buy Call of Duty at GameStop, and they get there and they're like, no, bro, you got to buy an Xbox if you want to play it.
But you also want to plant those seeds early, I think.
Yeah.
You
want everyone. You
don't
have to, though.
You don't have to, but instead of pulling the rug out from someone who's gone to the store to get their game, you should be broadcasting across NFL games for an entire month, like only on Xbox.
Yeah.
You know, like
it would be ideal if this deal had happened before this generation launched. Because then you would have let people make their decision. But now people who own PlayStations who may be gigantic Call of Duty fans, they're salty. They're going to be real salty.
I don't know. Like a
lot of people have to make a choice
one way or the other. You'd be salty one way or the other because like you can't find the fucking consoles.
Right.
Like
that's the other problem. The funny part is not that many people have been burned
yet.
That's
the other problem with your scenario there is do they have Xboxes when they walk into the store to get that? Yeah.
Same. I mean, it's the same deal with PlayStation right now.
That's one of the main reasons I want to make that clear months in advance that Xbox is the only place you can play Call of Duty now, is so that people can start trying to find an Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully by 2024 or whatever,
you would hope
you'll be able to just walk into a store and get an Xbox and PS5. But who knows?
Yep. I want to go to chat now to see what you guys think. Matt's been kind of keeping an eye on it, but I've been trying to keep the discussion going. But let me bring it up real quick so people can see what you guys are saying about it, because you guys matter too, and I want to see what you guys have to say. Something tells me anyone who defends billionaires is probably from America. That's from Ashes in the Hourglass. That's probably pretty accurate. Yeah. Too Quick Capri, haven't bought an Activision game since Diablo 3. Liberal Hack Kotick is a trash person, but he's a good business person. Ashes in the Hourglass, in 3 years the Xbox will be outselling the PS5. Do you believe that?
Maybe.
Noxatornitis, this isn't about console sales. No, it's about people subscribing to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's about making money. And however you do it, Microsoft's not concerned about selling a chunk of hardware anymore to make money. It's like they just want you to keep giving them that recurring payment every month. Those executives are bad persons, but if they were so bad at business, the board would have got rid of them. No, see, one Supermaster Gamer, that's what you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
So they install... This is kind of what's happening with our
elections. The board of Activision was all of Kotick's buddies.
This is kind of what's happening with election boards all across the United States right now. You have one crew installing their cronies in positions of power to protect them. So what happens if when Bobby Kotick is the CEO of Activision, he gets all his friends to be on the board so that he has basically a buffer zone against anything. Again,
And
capitalism 101.
Yeah, and all the decisions those executives make mean nothing if they are not executed well by the people getting paid jack shit with no unions at the bottom of the rungs.
Yep.
Those people made that company worth $70 billion just as much as Bobby Kotick did.
Yep.
And they got screwed for nothing out of it for the most part. Most of them don't even work there anymore, and he's going to get $17 billion for covering up what happened to them. So, yeah, I'm not too willing to give him a lot of credit for that.
Liberal hack, I have a PS5 and PC and don't play Activision games. My only concern is this damages Sony to a level where they have to scale back their initiatives, new studios, scaling existing ones up, etc. I don't think that impacts I don't think it'll impact any of that, honestly.
Not immediately.
Yeah.
Not
Sir. Thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Yakov, is it viable for Game Pass to support 31 studios? How long will it be until Microsoft starts to shut down studios like they did during Xbox 360 era? What franchises will die and what franchises will come back to life? That's a big question. Yeah. That would take us 30 minutes to answer that.
Yeah, there is an element of you got to wonder 10 years down the road, now that they've seen which of their acquisitions succeed and don't so much succeed. It's hard to believe there won't be a period of shrinkage.
But it's smart. I mean, again, capitalism.
Right.
If you have a studio that's not performing, as long as you give them a legitimate chance to prove themselves, if they do not prove themselves, there's nothing wrong with cutting them.
And
I feel like there's this thing
that,
where game developers, no matter how bad they are just entitled to a job. No, that's not how it works. We're still living in a place where if you aren't good at making games, you should not make games.
Yeah, and sometimes maybe the people at whatever company are good at making games, but the people who are the producers or the project managers are not good at managing projects, right? There's nothing saying that Microsoft can't take the cream of those other companies' crop and fold them into the other
animators,
the
artists,
because the ones that are going to survive are inevitably going to be expanded because they want to make bigger and better things with them. So hopefully they can do that smartly and humanely, basically.
But to answer your question, Yakov, yes, I think it can support 31 studios. Do I think it will ultimately? No. I think some of them will go away eventually.
I think Microsoft is very much in a period of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Most companies who do that don't spend $100 billion in the process of finding that out.
Yeah.
But Microsoft came to play, apparently.
Oh, more than came to play.
You remember back when people were saying the Xbox One's going to be the end of that's the end. Microsoft's going to get out of video games.
Oh man.
Nope.
Bad takes. More bad takes.
No more consoles. It's nope.
Mitch says, I think it's extremely unhealthy for the industry. It makes me nervous of things to come. I don't understand why you think that, Mitch. It's bad for PlayStation.
Yeah.
Is that why you feel that way? I don't understand the rest of it, though. Okay.
I guess if Microsoft then buys Ubisoft and Capcom and Square, I might be okay, who's left? That'll be a little disturbing. But
here's a good one from Sneaky. How will Microsoft realistically get $67 billion back? Time.
Yeah.
This to me is 10, 15-year plan.
Yeah.
It'll take 10 years probably to get the money back.
At least. They're playing a long game here that I would love to see in the climate change debate.
Yeah. I wish I could see the real long-term plan.
Yeah.
I wish I could sit in a Microsoft meeting and see what the end game is here for 25 years.
And it's interesting that they seem to still, because the rumor was, and certainly I think it was, who was it? Who was the guy who was the big launch guy? The guy who launched Xbox and then left the company.
Ed Freeze?
Not Freeze. It was
Seamus Blackley.
Seamus Blackley. I remember him saying something at GDC in 2001. I can't remember if it was in a speech or if it was just at a bar, but he basically said that I think it was him. Somebody said that basically in 98 or 97, 98, Bill Gates basically came to this team that became the Xbox team and was we need to own interactive entertainment. We need to own video games basically in the in the 21st century at all costs. Do it. I don't care what we got to do. We're going to do it. And they seem to still be rolling with that philosophy.
He was right.
He was right. But that was when people said, "Oh my God, the Xbox One, the original Xbox is too big." Nobody cares.
Okay.
And they're "Okay, we're just gonna keep rolling." And then the 360 came out, and the gate swinging and changing.
Xbox One flop
online. Okay, we'll just pivot, and then here we go. And then
again, it all comes down to the money. Having that kind of money to make pivots.
Yeah.
Believe me, there are 5 times I would like to have pivoted with Sifted. But if you don't have money, you can't do it.
Right. It's Microsoft is not necessarily too big to fail as a singular company, but they are big enough that they they don't have to let any element of their company fail if they don't want it to.
Yeah.
Like they could step away from Xbox if they wanted to, but they clearly don't want to.
Yep. Do you see in 10 or 15 years where there's like 3 or 4 companies, kind of like what Mitch was hinting at, like in the future, is this consolidation going to mean that there's 5 gaming companies in like 10 years?
Well, no, because there'll always be hundreds of gaming companies. You know, they're all going to be.
Because what will happen is if they get absorbed,
stuff.
there's 5 other ones that are starting.
Right, and the indie ones will kind of take that space, and
and
some of those indie companies are going to become what we would think of, as Capcom.
Look at Housemarque.
Or
Housemarque, perfect example.
Yeah, or what you'll think of those companies as like, what we thought of what Capcom and Activision and Ubisoft stuff were in like the 90s.
Yeah.
There's a evolutionary gap, and they will fill it. They will grow to fill it. Someone will grow to fill it.
Yeah.
And eventually they will be bought by some other giant mega corporation, and the cycle will start again. The worry comes when you don't have anyone replacing these big megaliths. And there's no shortage of smaller game developers.
There's too many.
There are too many to keep track of.
Too many.
Days. But there's tons of, and we always see them that are like, those guys could make AAA stuff.
Yeah. Housemarque, we talked about it for years, and then Sony bought them.
And they will.
And they made
Because also remember that like, Activision being absorbed into Microsoft also leaves a gap in the investing world.
It does.
Because now that's part of your Microsoft portfolio, right? So now you're like, oh, what else should I look for? And so there could be a windfall from that going forward.
So there you go. The biggest news in gaming for probably the last decade. I think, Matt, you and I both agree that it's going to probably take a couple years before we really see any kind of shifts because of this deal.
Yeah.
But when the shifts start happening...
Which does give Sony some time to sort of move the defenses around a little bit. Like, they know what's coming now.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go.
It's going to be real interesting to see who ends up with GTA 6.
It will be.
Because
that's really like...
The only thing preventing that is Take-Two saying no.
Yeah. Because, I might say no.
I might.
I were Take-Two. Yeah. Even $2 billion, like, that's maybe low.
Yeah.
When you think about how much you can generate on all the platforms.
Like, if I'm Take-Two, like, my attitude on that would probably be, even if you offer me $2-3 billion, which is probably about right.
I want more.
Maybe I want more. Maybe I think I might get more if I just release it on everything. And maybe I don't want to piss off the people that aren't on the platform I'm making the deal with.
Because if you are Take-Two and you foresee that what Microsoft has just done is putting it in a position to lead going forward,
right?
You might want to be on that wagon.
Yeah. Or you might just want to be like, I don't want to take a side on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to show our consumers that we're playing that game.
Yeah.
And because there's a perception if you're playing that game, you're not thinking of the consumer. You don't care that consumer might have to then buy another $500 game console to play the game they want to play from you.
Yeah.
Like that is a PR consideration. And if you're Take-Two and you know that you really don't need one of the advantages of being paid out to be a time to you get guaranteed income.
You also
guaranteed
get
revenue because
they pay for all the marketing.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about how many copies that game is going to sell to the same level anymore. And Take-Two does not need to worry about that with Grand Theft Auto 6. Like there is no concern over how many copies that game is going to sell.
But it is kind of the saving throw for PlayStation at this point.
Like I don't know what they'd probably. If I were Take-Two, I'd be like, okay, we'll do that, but what else are you going to give us for other titles, for other games, for non-Rockstar games?
They hold all the cards.
Yeah,
they have all the power. Big news, people. Sometimes doing GameFace on Tuesday works out great. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a nightmare. But today it worked out because I'm guessing we're some of the first people to be able to talk about this on a podcast today. Thanks for all the great questions, the great insight in our chat. Our chat is awesome. If you've never shown up for a live broadcast of GameFace on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, our chat is awesome, full of people who know the industry inside and out, probably know it better than you do, and they're all talking with each other like adults. They're not arguing. They're all making points, and they're offering counterpoints the way that adults have discussion. So try to show up live for our show sometime. Also, people are giving away all kinds of stuff in the chat, so definitely worth it to show up. You guys knocked it out of the park again today with your commentary about Microsoft. So time to move on. Again, this show can't last too long. We got a lot of stuff to get to. Last week, we started our 2022 previews with Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Would have been great if we had waited to do the big three till this week. But we did cover them last week. And this week, we're going to tackle third-party and PC, which are kind of the same thing, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
because all third-party stuff at this point comes to PC. I did try to find some games that you should keep your eye on for this year that are only PC, a couple big PC exclusives. But for the most part, a lot of the games we're going to be talking about today are coming to at least PlayStation and Xbox. Some of them coming to Switch, but all of them are coming to PC. All right, we're going to kick things off with a game that I'm not 100% sure that this is coming out this year, Matt, but everyone else seems to be convinced that it is, and that is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. You really think this game is coming out in 2022?
It would be stupid if it didn't.
Because the film's coming out?
Yeah. Like, you release this at the end of the holiday season to coincide with Avatar 2.
Yeah.
To miss that would be real dumb. And it might. It might, you can't, marketing synergy doesn't make you code any faster. So, like, it might. But I think the fact that they showed this last year does help the idea that it's coming this year alongside the movie.
Yeah.
It would be real dumb to not synergize this with the Avatar sequel.
But would it be more dumb to do that or to delay a game that isn't good by 6 months? Because, I mean, it's James Cameron's film. That movie's still going to be in theaters like 5 months later.
No, it won't.
You don't think it will?
No, that's not how anything works.
If he has anything to say about it,
it'll be gone in 6 weeks like everything else.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the phenomenon the first movie was. It's going to be a hit.
It's almost impossible to do that anymore.
No, the first Avatar was a unique moment in time, a perfect synergy of
3D
tech and 3D, introducing people to 3D. Like, it was a theme park ride, basically. Because you know what? No one remembers who any of these characters are.
I don't remember any of them.
Who cares about
I mean, I remember them. I don't remember their names.
No. I know Jake is the main guy.
I totally forgot that.
And Neytiri is the main girl. And I don't remember any of the other Na'vi. And I certainly don't remember the white-haired colonel guy. Yeah. Who's apparently coming back in the sequel somehow.
How?
I don't know.
He'll be like all a cyborg or something
Maybe.
now. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they...
I guarantee you they want it out this year. Will it come out this year?
That I would agree with.
Good question.
Yeah. Ubisoft...
The plan is definitely to put it out this year. Who knows if it'll make it.
I would be surprised if Ubisoft released a really bad game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like, I thought about this one for the draft.
Yeah.
But like, I don't fully believe it will make this year. I mean, I guarantee they want it to. I'm sure it's on all their planning documents that it's Q4 2022, but we'll see if it happens.
Yep. It is coming to PS5, PC, and Xbox One. For some reason, it's not listed as a Series X game yet. I'm guessing that will change by the time
I'm sure they just mean like Xbox.
Yep.
It's not everything.
Yep. Next up, Arc Raiders. This is a cooperative sci-fi shooter.
This thing.
Made by former developers from some pretty big development teams that have struck out on their own. It seems like studios like that are like 50-50, make or break. Like,
well, what is it with? I mean, look, I don't know. I'm vaguely remembering what this is now. What is it with studios that you kind of do the super group thing and they make the most generic looking shooter thing I've ever seen? I guess like
you would think that they've been sitting on like ideas all this time that like their big studio wouldn't give them the green light for, and now this is their chance.
It's like they just rearranged the furniture in Gears of War and called it a day.
I think the problem is that what you realize when you start your own business is the risk.
Yeah.
It's like it's easy to talk about doing brave stuff until it's your money on the line and your livelihood on the line. And then you have new considerations. And a lot of times these developers, maybe they do have that crazy, awesome idea.
I mean, it's pretty cool, but like it doesn't pop. It doesn't jump out at me.
Yeah.
And also I kept thinking about this was just because I was looking at the Microsoft sale yesterday, and like that Anthem was like $3.99.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I paid like $70 for that. And look what I get.
Not that long ago.
No.
Yeah. Arc Raiders is coming to PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. No hard release date for it yet. I'm guessing it'll be Q4 because if it were coming earlier, we probably would at least have like a release window at this point. But I think it looks cool. But again, one of my common complaints with a lot of games like this, I hate fighting robots. And it seems like all the enemies in this are.
All right. That's the main thing I associate with this game is that you said that.
I hate fighting robots.
Yeah, they might want to get another message out there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there are other things you fight in this, but in this
I don't think
trailer,
you're getting on the box quote for that.
Yep.
Hate fighting robots, Sifted.net.
Sifted.net. Yep. Next up, the Callisto Protocol. This is another game that's made by former developers who worked at another
former Dead Space
studio,
creator.
Former Dead Space. It's kind of cool to see this stuff happening and kind of see what projects they're working on. But you're right. A lot of the times it just seems like they're very conservative. This one, I would argue, isn't really.
No, this looks more interesting. And, it's interesting because it's partly it's like, what would the original creator of Dead Space done with the property if they hadn't been ordered to make it what it became by EA?
Which was trash.
Yes. And this looks pretty cool. Like I also thought about this for the game draft, and I just don't think it's going to make it this year.
That makes me nervous.
We haven't heard anything about it for a long time.
We got this one trailer.
There was another mention of it, I think, last year, but it's there's been no hint of a release window.
I would not mess with it in a fantasy draft. No. Definitely not.
But it is definitely on my radar. It looks cool.
Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it, but I agree. I do not think it's coming out this year.
It is expanding the PUBG universe.
Yeah. And it's next gen only, by the way. Yeah. It's PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. So you can't play it on PS4 or Xbox One. Next up.
Another good argument for it being after this year.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, Dying Light 2. This game was supposed to come out last December.
I had this on my fantasy draft 2 years ago.
Yeah. I had it last year.
Yeah, you had it last year. So.
Yep, and it's finally coming out. It was supposed to make it in December. It didn't quite make it, but this is a safe bet for coming out in 2022. It already has a hard release date. It's coming out February 5th, which is my birthday. Mm-hmm. It's coming to Switch. It's going to be one of those cloud-style games on Switch. It's also coming to PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. It's pretty much Dying Light 2. It doesn't stray that far from the formula. Mm-hmm. It has branching story paths, and like you can replay it a lot more than you could the last game. But if you played the last game, you know what you're getting here. It's a first-person action adventure where you fight waves of zombies. In the last game, they supported it post-launch for years and years and years. I think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people will be apt to pick it up knowing that it's not going to just disappear after like 9 months or whatever, and there's going to be more content for them to consume if they really get into it and want to go for that quote-unquote 500 hours for full completion. This game's coming out soon, as I said, February 5th, so you might want to get it on your radar now.
Weeks.
Yeah, it's just like 3 weeks away, which is pretty exciting. Again, I checked this out at E3. I think it was 2019 or 2018, and it really impressed me. So just take that for what it's worth. If you've been listening to me for a long time, I usually don't make statements like that all willy-nilly. So definitely want to keep an eye on. Again, it's coming out in like 3 weeks, and it's coming out for pretty much every platform. Next up, Elden Ring. Matt, I think you can take the reins on this one if you want.
Yeah, this is Dark Souls in an open world.
Yeah.
With some Sekiro combat lessons.
Yeah.
And this is probably one of the biggest releases of the first quarter if you're into this kind of thing.
Easily.
February 25th. Yep. So also, just a month away, really.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about this.
This Q1 is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. There are so many good games coming out in the first 3 or 4 months of this year. It's almost overwhelming. It is coming to PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. No cloud version of this for Switch, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Not yet. It might happen.
And I like a couple of people I know. I'm just like, okay, so this comes out February 25th. Then in March, I was like, don't care.
Yeah.
Like there are people like this takes care of their gaming plans to like June.
Oh yeah. I mean, this game would probably take me the whole rest of the year to finish this game.
It might. Yeah.
If I legitimately
people I'm talking about would probably finish it like 5 times.
Right. Like, yeah. Like if I wanted to stream Shane versus Elden Ring, I feel like that stream could last till the end of 2022.
Jeff Green made good money out of that.
Did he? Well, there you go. Maybe that's what we need to do. Start having more Shane
like people
versus
playing
whatever.
Souls games badly is a whole subgenre of Twitch.
It's a cottage industry on Twitch that I'll be glad to be a part of. But again, Elden Ring comes out February 25th. It's coming to everything but Switch. It's from Software in the open world. I mean, I'll even admit, I played the technical test or whatever the hell they called it, and I still enjoyed myself for the most part. I do not think if you really hate the Souls games that this is going to change your mind all that much, but there are some parts of it that do soften it a little bit. But again, I love the art. I love the world that they've created for this. I love everything about it, except for just how brutally difficult it can be. But anyway, that's Elden Ring. Again, it's coming to everything. Next up, Gotham Knights. Matt, I am still not 100% sure this game's coming out this year.
Same.
I'm way too nervous about it.
I think Suicide Squad is, but I don't know about this one.
Because they haven't really made public declarations about this like they haven't put stuff in their trailers.
There is still an element of vagueness to it that makes it feel like they're firming it up somehow.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like the dough is rising, but it's not ready to go in the oven just yet.
It was
and
supposed
that
to come
feels
out
like,
last year,
yeah,
delayed, and now they haven't even given it like a quarter for release this year. That makes me nervous.
It feels like this thing might be having some troubles.
Yeah, I mean, I think since it was delayed and they didn't really give a hard new release date, it's definitely having troubles. Mm-hmm. And this is what, 2-player co-op? Is that right?
Yeah,
it's just
2-player
2 players. Co-op. Yeah, and they put out on the day they debuted it, they put out a huge chunk of gameplay, which was really encouraging. We were like, oh, wow, they're showing like 10 minutes of gameplay already? Then it's probably close to release.
Also, like, you might want to push this closer to the Batgirl movie.
Yeah.
Which they just put a photo of the costume out for that. It looks great. Because then the sort of, Batman sidekick team thing will be a little more prominent in the, zeitgeist. I think you're going to have a weird time, not necessarily a hard time, but a weird time trying to sell a Batman game without Batman in it.
Yeah. I think the other part of it, too, is that, like, and I agree with you, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, absolutely coming out this year.
Yeah.
How close do you want this game to that?
Right. And not in the sense like, oh, too much Bat stuff or too much DC stuff. That's not it. I don't think you want people comparing this to Suicide Squad.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm not super interested in Suicide Squad, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a better game than this one.
It's going to be way more polished. I can pretty much guarantee that. Yeah.
And more kinetic.
Look a lot better too, probably. Yeah.
Like I
won't be a favorable comparison.
I see some clunk even in the footage of this, that isn't there in Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep. I agree with you. So I'm saying it's 50-50 whether it comes out this year. Mm-hmm. That might be generous.
Yeah.
Yep. Next up, a game that just in this last week, rumors have been swirling that it's in trouble. Hogwarts Legacy, another open world game. This one's set in the Harry Potter universe. Trailers for this leaked out before it was ever debuted. It's been a long road full of issues and mistakes.
And you could argue that this is the Harry Potter game that Harry Potter fans have always wanted.
Yes.
Like go create your character, go to Hogwarts, and go to Hogwarts.
Go hog wild.
Stored at Hogwarts. Stored at Hogwarts. I don't know. But I think they're probably having some difficulties in terms of like getting all that. That's a big concept to make work.
Well, remember
there was satisfying framework, and beyond that, you're dealing with the backlash to J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, there was all kinds of internal problems going on with the development of this, and the lead developer on the project. There was issues with him for a while.
Yeah, he was part of the project, and you've just got like a huge chunk of the Harry Potter fandom has no interest in giving money to Harry Potter anymore because they don't want to give any more money to J.K. Rowling while she is spouting her turf anti-trans nonsense.
Right.
And if I were making a big, expensive project with that IP, I would be very nervous that I was going to lose tons of sales from people who will not give money to it.
Yep.
And a lot of times, like thinking about stuff, it's like, oh, they're going to boycott. It's like a lot of times that's bullshit. But like the behavior of the Harry Potter fandom that cares about that kind of stuff has been so consistent, unusually consistent for this kind of cancel thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that is a genuine worry for this game.
Well, I just want to give credit where it's due. The word coming out that the game is in trouble is coming from Colin Moriarty, and editorially we always give credit to people who break stories. That is his story. I've not verified it with any of my sources at this point, but take that for what it's worth. But the word is it's not doing well. It may get delayed again. We don't even really have a hard release date for this year for it yet. It's looking dicey as to whether it's going to make it. And the competition this year is, as you'll see as we keep going through this, the competition is no joke this year. There is a lot of really.
You really might want to wait for a time it's a little less crowded.
Yeah. Maybe
which is weird to say about the Harry Potter IP, but that's where we are now.
It's still fantasy.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of competition there. Elden Ring is competition for Hogwarts Legacy. Let's be honest. Okay, up next, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Mm-hmm. This is XCOM with Marvel characters. Initially, we thought it was going to feature a bunch of obscure characters, and it turns out it does kinda. Like I'm not familiar with this whole story arc. You had to kind of fill me in on it when we talked about it.
You will be more familiar once Moon Knight comes out.
Yeah,
like we're moving into this element of things with the MCU with Moon Knight and Black Knight. Kit Harington's character from Eternals and Blade coming. Like we were moving into the supernatural Midnight Suns element of Marvel in the movies, and I could not be more excited about that.
I'm cool with
that stuff. Is really fun. The early '90s Midnight Suns stuff with Ghost Rider and all that stuff was really cool. I hope Ghost Rider shows up at some point in the MCU.
This game was also
Agents
supposed
of
to
Shield
come
doesn't
out.
count. Don't at me.
This game was also delayed. It was supposed to come
Yeah.
out early in the year. Now they're saying at the end of the year.
Q3, Q4, which feels like a Q1.
Yeah, it's a little dicey.
But we'll see. I mean, who is this? I forgot the name of the company that makes XCOM.
Firaxis.
That's right. Yeah, they get stuff done.
They usually do, but this is a big deal.
Part of this may be like
This is bigger than any XCOM.
somewhat, but also, I wouldn't be surprised if the delay was more due to the fact that they have to run everything through Marvel.
Right, exactly.
Not that they're having development problems,
It's
but
dealing with Marvel.
You're
Yeah.
dealing with Marvel and dealing with this version of the IP, and you're getting darker and you're getting weirder and you're getting PG-13y in places, and we'll see. But it looks cool. Like I like this.
This trailer's great.
Things. Like the
one of
mystic
the better
armor on
trailers
everybody
from
is
last year.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like after that, those rumors that like you weren't going to play as the X-Men are in it, which is a nice thing. The rumors you weren't going to play as any known Marvel characters popped up. Like, my interest really, and then this trailer came out like a week after that, and I was just like, oh no, that's
wait a minute.
everybody is. Like, of course they're not doing that. What are you talking?
Yeah.
I think the only real difference that they said from XCOM is that they can't die.
Yep.
Like they'll just get knocked out for a couple missions.
Which, whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I wouldn't want one of my big favorite superheroes to die permanently.
No,
in a game
I don't think
play.
that gets you anything worthwhile.
I mean, how do you kill Wolverine anyway?
Yeah,
It's really hard. So, yeah, that's coming. Let me make sure I check the platforms for that.
imagine
Switch,
it's almost
PS4,
everything.
PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So everything. Next up, game called Multiversus.
Yes.
It's one of those games that got a lot of hype when it was first announced. There was a bunch of leaks showing off new characters. It's basically a Warner Brothers, Smash Brothers clone.
Yeah, Smash Warner Brothers.
Yep. You still excited about this? We both were when we first saw it.
Yeah, I'll give it a look.
Yeah.
It's free to play, right? Who cares?
Is it free to play?
I thought it was.
I'm not
Am I
100%
wrong?
sure, honestly. I don't know. But the industry could probably use more Smash Brothers clones that are done well. Because there aren't many. Although it seems like in the last year, there's been like 3 or 4 that have been announced.
And this has the co-op focus, which is an interesting direction.
Yeah, you're playing with like one other person on your team, pretty much.
And a lot of the moves are designed to work with the other player.
Yep, together. So it is a unique angle on it. I like a lot of the characters that are in it. They're definitely diverse.
Yeah.
And they come from all different walks of pop culture. And I think that's got a cool part to it. But ultimately, the proof is going to be in the pudding, how it plays. And if it plays well, I think it'll have a chance. If it doesn't, it has no chance. So good characters or not. It won't do well if the fighting isn't great. But that seemed like a big emphasis of theirs. Like they're already talking about the esports angle of it and all that kind of stuff. So I think they have the right priorities on this game. Let's just see if they can execute it ultimately. And that's coming to everything as well. Next up, Nightingale. This is another game that's developed by former dude who worked on a big studio and now he's working on smaller projects.
All right, I remember this. I really like the aesthetic of this, like the look of this. I just wish it was a different kind of game.
Because it's like a survival...
It's like a team survival thing.
Yeah, it's like a team-based MMO-style survival game. Build your homestead,
Yeah.
start,
I
start a fire.
I saw this and I wanted like a single-player action
Me
adventure.
too. It looks awesome. I still struggle to see how this stuff that they're showing in this trailer fits into what they're saying the game is. But it's set, you're basically trapped in this alternate reality, and the objective is to try to find your way back to your reality. Again, I don't know how that's going to work with the MMO framework. It seems weird. Maybe they send you, if you get home, they send you to another server. Like, I don't know how that's all going to play out. But it definitely has some unique ideas. I'm just not a big survival guy.
Yeah.
And building my homestead stuff. That's just not in my
I
wheelhouse.
guess is this going to be similar to what's that Norse, like Valheim?
Valheim,
I think it's going to be like that.
Which I played for 4 days and never went back to.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I'll do with Nightingale as well.
Yeah. I mean, I had friends who played that for months, so it's definitely it's a winning
Oh,
formula.
it's a huge hit.
So we'll see, and it's got the aesthetic could really work. But even the people I know who liked Valheim saw this and were like, oh, I was hoping it was going to be like a single player action RPG or something. And
Yep. Nightingale is PC only right now, by the way. So this is one of the games that I made sure to pull in just for people who are PC players. It's not coming to any consoles as of right now, but I'm guessing it will ultimately, provided it does okay.
Yeah.
And by the looks of it, it'll do okay, I think, out of the gate at least.
Yeah, but this feels like one of those things where it's like it might be a pretty minor hit or sort of a thing on PC, and then like maybe you'll get versions on consoles like a year or something later, and then it will kind of feel like you missed the party anyway.
It's possible. especially with an MMO game.
Yeah.
Because you jump into that world, everyone. If you're put in with PC players,
I mean, you wouldn't be, but like still, like there's a lot of times when like the MMO or like those crazes kind of come to console later. I feel like it feels a little like you're getting there after everything already happened, even though that's it's a brand new version of the game on a console.
The keg's empty.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's a thing that if I've felt a few times. Maybe it's irrational. But.
Yeah. Next up, the game that I'm really curious about and I'm really nervous about, Sonic Frontiers. It's supposed to come out in Q4. It's coming to Switch, PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. It's supposed to be an open world Sonic game. I really question how that's supposed to work with Sonic. I haven't really enjoyed a 3D Sonic, maybe ever. I mean, I've kind of enjoyed a couple of them, but they've
make a world the size of Forza Horizon and let you run around in it, I guess. I don't know.
But there has to be courses, right? Like
theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're just going to, you kind of see it there in that one shot. Yeah. It just appears like they've just kind of plunked a course down.
I'm sure there'll be you start a story mission or whatever, and you'd have to go through a designed area or whatever, just like any.
Yeah, because there you can see there's this open area, but then off in the distance, it appears that there's maybe a course that you run on. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% sure, but
they might still be using the thing where you go into a separate world to do the levels.
That's true. You just walk through some gateway or
it might just
something.
be an open overworld, and the dungeons are Sonic levels.
I mean, I'll say this, they needed to do something because the way 3D Sonic was going for years and years wasn't really interesting most players. They've sold okay, but they haven't really sold the way Sonic should be selling.
They have got the movies are giving it a shot in the arm though. Certainly I've heard parents talk about Sonic more.
My nephews love Sonic now because of that movie.
Yeah, and that sequel's coming. That sequel is just you just lifted that shit right out of the games.
Yeah.
Idris Elba said he would not voice Knuckles sexy, and he lied.
If he did that, that's still a mistake.
Yeah. It's because Idris Elba doesn't have a choice.
Right.
It's just who he is.
That's the way it goes.
I mean, look, I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but if I was a Sonic fan, I feel like if I was watching the trailer for that second movie, I'd be like, holy shit, they made a Sonic the fucking Hedgehog movie. That is Marvel Cinematic Universe fidelity, Sonic movie making.
Absolutely.
And what a change from that first one where they put that trailer out. We all had existential horror from the weird design of Sonic. What a difference.
Here's funny. This is funny from our chat. So one person says, "How is Sonic still alive?" And then 3 comments down, "The last 3D Sonic game was a blast to play." Just
I can't
shows
remember
you.
What's the last 3D Sonic game? Was that Sonic Boom?
I don't even remember because they all just.
Sonic Boom was awful. Sonic Boom was literally unfinished.
Was that the subtitle something with Lyric or
Rise of Lyric
crap?
or something? Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you had fun with the last
Forces.
Sonic Sneaky.
I never played Sonic Forces.
I honestly haven't had fun with the 3D Sonic game. A ton of fun, maybe ever. Some have been not quite as bad as others.
Yeah,
but
I like the adventure ones.
I didn't at all. Well, I wouldn't say at all. The first time I played Sonic Adventure 1, the first hour, I was like, wow. And then not
I liked
so much
Adventure
wow.
1 and 2. Adventure loses a lot of steam when you have to play as Big the Cat.
Yep.
And I did finish it in Japanese back in the day. But I think the last, I guess, does that count as a 3D Sonic? Sonic Generations?
Yeah.
The one that had 3D levels as well as the 2D level. That was my favorite Sonic game probably since the first one.
Yeah.
I really liked that one.
It had a mix of 2D
Sonic
and 3D.
Colors was good.
See,
I didn't play the remake though.
You say good, I say not bad.
Well, I mean, there's a curve when you're dealing with Sonic.
For sure. But again, that's coming.
Sometimes it turns into a loop, and you end up back where you started.
That is coming to everything, and right now it's scheduled for Q4. We'll see if it makes it or not. Next up, Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger in Paradise, or whatever the hell the subtitle is. Stranger of Paradise. Final Fantasy Origin.
Just go watch Phantom of the Paradise and don't play this piece of shit.
Yeah. This is coming out March 18th. It is coming to pretty much everything but Switch, like almost everything else we're talking about. It is essentially Final Fantasy Souls.
Final Fantasy character action.
Yeah,
basically action RPG.
That's kind of challenging. You can only take a few hits before you die. I wouldn't say it's as hard as Dark Souls, though. I made progress through this game pretty easily.
Chaos.
Yeah. But And then what is the story again for this? It's like part of the first. It's like the first.
It's a retelling of the first Final Fantasy
side story, kind of though.
But no, it's the main. It's the characters. It is the main... Like the main villain from the beginning of Final Fantasy 1 is in this trailer.
But is it the same story though? Like it follows the same plot? Yeah.
I mean, look, the Final Fantasy 1 barely had a plot.
Right.
So like you can do whatever you want.
Kind of. It gives you some room to extrapolate a little bit.
As long as you hit those like 5 story beats, you can do whatever you want in between them. So I think that's what they're taking advantage of. I know they revamped a lot of it, but that first demo, like, I physically hate this game.
I didn't enjoy playing it too much, and just the aesthetics of it, and it's made by Team Ninja, so the combat's okay, but like the story and the writing and the voice acting and everything's just kind of a little off. I don't know who this is gonna appeal to.
From what I can see, every Final Fantasy fan in the world, because everybody's freaking out about this thing. Okay. Yeah.
I just figured
most of the reaction to this is very positive from what I've seen.
Wow. I just figured Elden Ring would take over whatever hype this game might have, but
I think the audiences are very different.
Okay. And it's coming soon too. It's coming like a month after, not even a month after Elden Ring. It launches March 18th. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
That's the bad guy, the guy that just jumped at the camera.
Yeah. Next up,
Garland, I think his name is.
Talked about this a little earlier. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. We've been waiting for how long for this game from Rocksteady? 5-6 years now?
I mean, if you want to go back to when Arkham Knight came out, that was
5 years.
7 years ago.
Was it 7?
2015.
Yeah, I guess that is 7 now. Holy moly. Yeah. So they've been
I know everyone thinks it's still 2020, but
right, yeah. It's shocking that it's taken this long for this game to come out. Like, they've been working on this forever. I'm excited for it. I think it looks cool. Like, I like cooperative games. It is next gen only, so it looks really, really good.
Yeah, it does look very nice.
The footage that we've seen of the gameplay so far, we have yet to see raw gameplay of this, I should note.
Yeah.
We've seen in-engine cut into
things
trailers.
that I assume are part of the gameplay.
And that stuff looks real slick.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Suicide Squad fan, but I will say this. The characters do seem different from each other. Like, extremely different from each other to play as. And that's good for a cooperative game, I think. I'm pretty excited for this game. It is pretty much set in stone to come out this year. They reiterated it again not long ago at the Game Awards that is coming out in 2022. It was originally supposed to come out, like, really early 2022. Now it's, like, mid-2022. But you're not excited for this. Is it because of what happened with Rocksteady's last game?
Somewhat. Also, like, I don't care about the Suicide Squad, really. I like Harley Quinn, but I think this roster is incredibly boring. Deadshot is not interesting to me. Captain Boomerang is not interesting to me. King Shark is funny, but I don't think that, like, I don't like playing big bruiser characters, so he's not an interesting character to play as to me. Like, basically, I'm going to play Harley Quinn, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And, like, I at least think that the roster should be bigger. Like, there should be more characters to choose from. Maybe there will be. Maybe that'll be the DLC plan. But, like...
but, I mean, they have to be in the Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, I mean, there have been literally dozens of characters in the Suicide Squad in the comics.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Suicide Squad's been around since we were, like, 10.
Yeah, I know it's been around a long time, but I just assumed it had that same core of characters the whole time.
No.
I've not read the comics at all.
It predates Harley Quinn by years and years.
Yeah.
Because remember, Harley Quinn was created for the animated series in the 90s.
Right, where she was great.
And Harley's interesting in that she has not changed too much since her original inception. Like, that character was just a home run from the beginning.
Well, it's a great character.
Yeah. And the original squad. I mean, Deadshot has always really been part of it. And Captain Boomerang, but like you can almost every villain in the DC universe who is not one of the heavy hitter. Like, I don't think Joker or Luthor or any of those have been Suicide Squad, but anything B-list and below in terms of power level has been on the Suicide Squad, and you can probably bring them in. And it'd be interesting to have, like Killer Frost or various villains who have different power sets who could be a more interesting way of synergizing with the other characters. But like, obviously, they seem to be trying to work in a way like that, that these characters' ability sets really interact with the world and interact with what you're doing. And so like that is a hard thing to balance and a hard thing to work in where you're trying to make this so asymmetric. So I understand why they did that, but it is still not particularly interesting to me.
The rare game where you play as the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I do like the concept of trying to find a way to kill all the Justice League members. Like, that's an interesting angle on things. And I think you can do some cool stuff, like what we did see.
There should be more games where you play as the bad guy.
You see
I don't understand why there aren't more.
see the gameplay trailer of Star Wars does that all the time.
Yeah.
The gameplay trailer of fighting Flash, like there's some interesting stuff there. Like Superman should be terrifying to have to fight, and they're leaning into that in that trailer, so that's cool.
Yep.
I can't imagine how annoying it's going to be to fight Batman if you do in fact fight Batman.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I think this is in continuity with the Arkham game, so I guess he's technically supposed to be gone or dead or whatever. But like,
the boss fights are gonna be great in this. I think.
Yeah, probably.
I'm excited for this game. I think it's gonna be good.
Somewhat. I don't know. It's gonna have to win me over with what the game is. It's gonna have to win my heart with gameplay, and we're just not gonna know that until we see more or get our hands on it or something.
Yep. Next up, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. This is right now only announced for Switch and PC. Another game that I suspect will be eventually announced for other platforms. For some reason, right now it's just PC and Switch. Obviously, the next installment in the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2D brawler franchise that I know from the arcades. Mm-hmm. You probably know them from the arcades as well. Obviously, most of our audience has probably never been in an arcade.
Arcade or the 16-bit era. All those. Yeah. They had Turtles in Time and a
lot of hype around
Manhattan
this.
Project and stuff. These games were a big deal for a long time, and a modern reimagining of them is really cool. Like there's some depth to the combat in this. You can see it from the footage. Yep,
I'm pretty excited for it. I did grow up playing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cooperative arcade game way too much. I spent way too much money on it, and a lot of people were excited about this. It's been getting a lot of page views on Sifted. For whatever reason, the Turtles just resonate with folks.
Turtles forever.
Yeah.
Like it's certainly at the time, if you were going to pick one of the franchises to last for 30 years, Ninja Turtles was probably not one of the ones people would pick. But there's something about them. And the other thing about them is, like, if you watch the other animated shows that have come with them over the years, like especially the recent Nickelodeon ones, like, they reinvent these characters to work in with
whatever's
all
happening
the time.
at the time.
Yeah, these characters have
been able to mutate, and then they were a skateboarder, and then
they were able to change these characters to be what they needed to be for each new generation, each new wave of kids watching them.
Yeah, it's true.
And they did it really, really well. And Peter Laird sold them to Nickelodeon for not a small reason. Like, Nickelodeon knows how to do that.
Yep.
And these characters probably last forever now.
Yep. Pretty amazing.
And they've now become, of course, like, people who grew up with them introduce them to their kids, and now the whole family loves Ninja Turtles. So that is how you build a brand that lasts forever.
Yep. Switch and PC, no release date yet for that, although I think it's pretty safe to say that it'll be coming out.
Yeah, pretty easy to be this year.
Yep.
Also, if you haven't read the IDW Ninja Turtles books, do it. If you like Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Like, they're solid reinventions, I think. A new story with them is good.
Okay. Next up, Tiny Tina's Wonderland or Wonderlands. I always get this wrong.
I think it's Wonderlands.
It's like a USB port. I always end up putting it in it's 50-50, and I always put it in the wrong side up. This is made by Gearbox. It is kind of a spin-off of the Borderlands franchise. We've been hearing rumors that there may never be another Borderlands game. I think Pachter actually mentioned that in one of his episodes. And so this may be all the type of stuff that we're going to get going forward, these kind of spin-off things. This is also a little different too, because it has like high fantasy elements in it, more like RPG elements in it than.
Well, it is. It's her tabletop campaign with the characters, which is fun. Like,
are you excited for this? It's just kind of. It's not really getting me hyped.
No, I feel like the early part of the year is packed enough that I would probably find no real use for this. Also, like, Borderlands stuff tends to be available for like super cheap in like 8 to 10 months. So.
Borderlands 3 I just saw ended up settling in at like a 72 Metacritic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it hasn't. The last one did not do as well as they had hoped, either financially.
Like,
or
I do
critically.
like the Tiny Tina character. I've liked her, the RPG, parody stuff they've done with the character in the past. Like, that was DLC for 2, I think.
I love Ashley Birch.
Ashley Birch is great. Like, more Ashley Birch is always good. But I don't know. Like,
it's not hitting for me. It's coming out March 25th. It's coming to PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. And again, it's another game that's coming out here in the next like 6 weeks. It's nuts.
Yeah.
This first quarter of the year is just amazing. But again, it's coming to pretty much everything again, but Switch. Poor Switch. It just doesn't get anything.
I mean, very old tech at this point.
Yeah, yep.
It's half a decade old.
It is.
And it was already outdated tech-wise when it came out.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. Next is a PC-only game. Total Warhammer 3. That's what I call it. Instead of Total War Warhammer 3, I call it Total Warhammer 3. RTS, the last two have been great. This is Creative Assembly as well, right? Yep. Probably the best RTS developers on the planet right now.
Yeah. Certainly in terms of like big war game stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just nobody else doing this.
Also, if you like to purchase games that get a lot of post-launch support, these games get so much. It's really, they're still releasing stuff for the second game, and this one's about to come out. So if you buy this, you're going to get steady updates for the next like 2 or 3 years, and even after that probably. So it's generally a wise purchase. Both of the first two games have been great, even by people who play a ton of RTS games, which I'm not one of them. But I enjoyed it. Someone who doesn't play a lot of them. So
I do wish they do a 40K one.
Yeah,
I would really like to see 40K Total War.
Yep, I can see that. And that may be coming. But for right now, it's not. This is for PC and also Game Pass on February 17th. So this is coming in like 3 weeks. And if you're a PC Game Pass subscriber, you will get it for free, which is a big deal. Next up, one of the smaller guys I wanted to mention, a game called Tunic. This game's been getting a lot of hype. It's kind of like Zelda before it went 3D, essentially.
Yeah, I know this one.
I love the look of this game. It's almost like the whole game is built out of like crystals or something. It definitely has like a unique art style with like these angular whatevers. But it's like an isometric action RPG with lots of exploration. It doesn't seem like it's too loot heavy like a lot of action RPGs are today. It seems like it leans a little more heavily on the adventure side of things, which is good. It's been getting a lot of hype. And people are really excited about it. It's one of the most anticipated indie games of 2022.
Makes me think of Landstalker.
Yeah. It's coming March 16th, and it's coming to Mac, PC, and then it's a Xbox console exclusive. So you won't be able to play this on Switch or PlayStation.
So it's either this or Stranger of Paradise, huh?
I would probably play this.
I'm going to have to flip a coin.
I think I would choose this, man. I think I really would.
I would choose dental appointments over Stranger of Paradise. I really don't want to play that game.
It's not very exciting. It just seems like a very dour game.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't get me, like, my spirit going to get into. I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's Tunic. Again, that's March 16th, and it's coming to Mac, PC, and Xbox. Next up, a sequel to one of Matt's most underappreciated games from last generation, A Plague Tale Requiem. The first game probably didn't get what it deserved as far as sales or recognition are concerned, but hopefully the sequel
it got some word about it, but it didn't. I think it deserved more. It was way better than I thought it was going to be, and I think that would apply to most people. You gotta get the fixed trailer.
I know. It's coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch. So it's mostly next gen plus Switch. Is that also a cloud version for Switch? I'm guessing.
Probably. It must be.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on this one. This is a good series. Get the first one for like $9 now or something. Like,
it might be hitting a little too close to home right now.
Well, the COVID's not spread by giant waves of rats, so like it's not quite. It doesn't hit the same, I don't think. God, the rat physics are really good. Like, it's just the creepiest damn thing to look at these waves of rats flood over everything.
Yeah. And that hasn't changed. That's coming.
No,
back.
that's still in there. Yeah.
Yeah. If I had a better trailer, you would know that. So that's on me. Saints Row, the reboot of Saints Row, coming August 23rd.
Smart and or lucky that they delayed.
It's smart.
They would definitely.
And lucky.
They would have been buried in
Yeah.
Q1.
And it won't be in August.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be coming in. Everyone's
Hopefully
coming back
makes
from
it.
summer. Everyone's coming back from vacation, ready to get inside and play some games in the air conditioning.
Although hopefully it doesn't like slip to like November and get buried again.
I don't know. We'll see. They kept this game under wraps for a long time for a game that's coming out in August.
Yeah, Saints Row went dormant for a shocking amount of time. I mean, even if you count Agents of Mayhem, which technically is part of the franchise, like Saints Row went away for a very long time beyond the remasters.
I think they're following Bethesda's like kind of recent strategy where they announce something and then 8 months later you can buy it. Although that obviously isn't the case with the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, well, I maintain that the Elder Scrolls Starfield announcement was because they knew what Fallout 76 was going to end up being, and they needed to distract people.
Yeah,
they needed to give people
it worked.
they needed to give people something else to look forward to, so they knew that this wasn't all that was there.
Mitch is asking you in chat, does this come off as too realistic for a Saints Row game?
No.
Yeah, I don't think Saints. Well,
I understand why people had that impression from the first trailer, but the latest stuff, no, it looks very much in character.
Yeah, I mean, it looks goofy as hell to me.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what Saint Row's all about.
Like, it's a realistic art style for the characters, but I don't mind that.
I think maybe people are worried because the first trailer's kind of serious
instead
of being funny.
But this trailer's not. I mean,
there's still some humor in it,
and you can see all the lore stuff. I mean, they've got the tech from the Altor stuff, and it's all there. I think it's gonna this trailer almost was it this trailer? This is the first trailer.
Yeah.
The second trailer, the more recent stuff, like they are intentionally showing all the wacky
it's
stuff.
It's more
and
goofy. Yeah.
People in mascot suits.
This is trying to tell a little story and set up the game. But the gameplay trailer that Matt is talking about, it absolutely has a lot more of the shenanigans that you would associate with Saints Row. I don't think we have to worry about that. I think you just have to worry about whether you've liked Saints Row in the past or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mostly have. They're fun games. They're different.
And hopefully they've improved sort of some of the general gameplay stuff. And there's always that thing where it's just like, I thought I got a headshot, but apparently I didn't in those games.
Yeah.
Tighter gameplay would be a good evolution for the series. But in general, I'm definitely anticipating this one. I love the Saints Row games.
Yep. That's August 23rd, as we said. PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S.
Yeah, and it says apparently it has the most robust character creation of the whole series, which is saying something because those character creations, in some, especially in 2,
insane.
I've had a lot of and like I'm hoping finally the return of inner and outerwear. Because in 2 you could layer clothes, like you could put a shirt and then you put underwear and then and then shirt or pants and then a coat, and then like an over thing. Like you could really put stuff on, like, and then like they changed it to more like standard outfits for 3 and 4. Yeah. So I'm hoping they bring all that the granularity of the dress up back for this one.
Okay.
Especially with the visual quality, and like everybody's wearing like different clothes. You can tell they're leaning into that.
It's a big part of it. Yep.
The style is going to be important.
Okay, next game, a game that Matt has been waiting patiently for it seems like forever.
4 years
Lego
now.
Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Is this the year, Matt?
I think we are finally getting it this year.
I think so too. I feel like we said this last January though.
Yeah, but at least we got a year on the trailer this time.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, this game has been in development for like 4 years. I'm guessing
way longer than that.
It's going to be the greatest Lego game.
It looked
ever.
almost done when we saw it in 2019 at E3. Like, this game's been in development like 6-7 years.
I don't understand it.
I don't know.
Maybe
when we play it, we'll be like, oh, okay.
Now I
get why this took so long, because you had to reinvent the wheel a bunch of times.
But finally, it never takes Traveler's Tales, or TT Games now they're called, this long to make these games.
No, but it does feel like this is like the end of Star Wars for them. It does feel like we are making the ultimate Lego Star Wars game, and that is going to stand as Lego Star Wars forever.
Yeah.
Until we make a Mandalorian game.
It looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It is coming to PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And in this case, I think it will run natively on Switch. I don't think it'll be a cloud version. But we'll see. These games
I don't know. They look pretty good now.
They do. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, some of that stuff, the open world, that Coruscant stuff looks really cool.
Yeah. It's looking good.
I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
It's funny to look back at the original ones and just see how far they've come.
Yeah.
In terms of what they were versus what they are now. Even the ones that are still focused for kids are like pretty elaborate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up. Dead Space remake. That's supposed to come out this year.
Yeah. Like
do you
Halloween
think it's coming out this year?
I think they're trying. I don't know if it will.
I highly doubt it does.
I think if they can make October, they will. Otherwise, it'll get pushed.
Yeah. I would be really surprised if this
a good Halloween game, though, if they can do it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then you're left in the conundrum of, do you wait till next Halloween to release it?
Right.
Or it puts you in a tough bind if it doesn't get out in time.
I know.
We see nothing of this. This is a CG trailer. It has nothing to do with what they've been working on. They said when they put this out that they had just really started like full production.
Yeah,
I really struggle to think this game's coming out this year. But it's slated for this year. That's why we included it in the roundup.
Yeah. I don't think we included it in the draft. So
nope. As you will find out shortly. Next up, Company of Heroes 3. This is another PC-only game that I wanted to make sure to include for our PC-centric players on Sifted. This is coming in the fourth quarter. This game has been in development for quite a long time.
Or so the Germans would have us believe.
Right.
I don't know if I feel like it might slip.
Yeah.
I looked at this on the draft, and I was like, because I love Company Heroes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I wanted to include it, but I just don't know.
Anything that's in Q4 for me, I stay away from it in the draft anymore. Yeah. It's just there's too much chance of it not making it.
Is this still Relic, or is this somebody else?
I believe so, yeah. Yep.
Relic is the other RTS developer that just has knocked out. I wish
they're good. Yeah.
Wish Dawn of War 3 was better. That's why I said Total War 40K would be cool, because the Dawn of War series seems to be over more or less. Although I heard they were maybe doing a remake of the first one, which would be interesting.
Yeah. If you like RTS games, this is a pretty good year for you.
Yeah.
There's going to be 3 or 4 good releases.
I imagine there'll be some good DLC for Age of Empires 4.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a good year for you if you're a big fan of that genre, and it's been dry for quite a while here, so I can understand if you've been.
This is another one thing I really like about called Company Heroes is this, especially the stuff that takes place in France, and they remember that the countryside there is beautiful.
Yeah,
and like the fact that the battlefields start with this gorgeous French countryside, and you just ruin it over the course of the game. It's a nice little comment.
Game looks real good. For an RTS, like the amount of detail and the characters and everything, it's pretty impressive.
The Company Heroes games have always been like, oh, that's unnecessary, an amount of detail on that. Like, you can zoom into those tanks and be like, what the hell? Yeah, even Company Heroes 2 still looks pretty darn good.
It does. Yep, absolutely.
And I remember how blown away I was that like it used like location-specific damage on the tanks, and like where you shot them mattered, and like it had a little bit of action game to it, and when you're controlling the tanks and the vehicles and stuff, there was a little more to it. There was a tactical element that I really liked. So
yep.
Looks great.
And then the very last third-party / PC game that we're going to talk about in our 2022 preview is Hollow Knight Silksong. The sequel to Hollow Knight. Long-awaited sequel to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, I just checked yesterday, has like a 92 Metacritic average or whatever.
It's the one that comes up in the it's like, has anyone done Metroidvania better than Castlevania or Metroid? And this is the one game that like just about everybody is at least, or Hollow Knight 1 is just the one that everyone's at least willing to have the conversation about.
Yep. And again, people have been waiting for a long time for this game.
It was originally like DLC.
It was going to be, and then it got so gigantic, they're like, no, we're just going to make a sequel. And that's what has added all the extra time onto it. But it was supposed to come out like at the end of last year. It was pushed into this year. Its chances are really high of coming out in 2022. And as Matt said, it has been forever since they started developing this thing. But another one of the indie games that you should definitely keep an eye out for in 2022. Matt, what a year this is going to be. So think back to last week when we did Nintendo, Sony, looking at the games that Sony has, Microsoft, and now all this. And I mean, I cut hundreds of games out of this. This is just the stuff that I was like, yep, got to make sure I mention that, got to make sure I mention that. 2022 is shaping up to be something really special, I think. And this stuff that we just showed you guys, most of you guys are going to be able to play it unless you're Switch. But I think if you're only a Switch owner, you've gotten used to that at this point. And we previewed Nintendo for you guys last week. So that's it. That wraps up our 2022 previews that we do every year. Hopefully it prepared you guys for the year to come. You know what's on the horizon. You can start kind of budgeting your money a little bit, trying to figure out when you're going to need like big amounts of money. I can tell you right now, you're going to need it for the next like 3 months. There's just so many good games coming out in the next like 90 days.
Big contrast with last year.
Yeah. Oh, this year, and it's because of last year.
Because everything that got delayed ended up here.
Yeah. And so I do wonder if some games that were scheduled originally to come out this year will then get pushed, and it just becomes this kicking the can down the road thing.
I don't know about that. I feel like the 2021's games that got delayed were specifically because they were in a particular stage of development when the lockdown hit.
And they had to navigate that.
That was really the hardest element.
Yeah.
It was the hardest period of development to navigate while doing that, and I feel like the games that were originally slated for this year did not necessarily go through that. Yeah, they were able to adjust to it because they were not in the same critical stage of development. So, like, I think the delay that we saw from that will be, unless we end up in that again, who knows? Get the fucking shot, people. I think unless we end up in another situation like that, most stuff will. I think you'll see the normal delays you always see from games because making video games is hard.
Yeah,
but I think it will get more or less back to quote unquote normal. I don't think we'll see a lot of delays because of that. I think that was specific to games that were in a particular point. I
think every studio had to navigate how do you work under COVID. They've done that.
Yeah, now we all kind of know.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people say they're far more productive working from home than they are in the study in the studio.
And it means you can find the best talent and not have to bus them in from another city or country or like everyone can work on these things around the world. Ubisoft already knew that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's it for our 2022 preview. Hope you guys have enjoyed how we stretched it out across the last 2 episodes. We didn't beat you over the head with it too much. Next up is our last topic for the live version of GameFace 285. So we're going to do this topic. We'll name that game, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. We'll close down the stream, and then we'll do our Sifted Fantasy Draft. And then after that's over, Matt and I are going to record an extra segment that will then be placed into the archive of 285. But for your purposes, live here on the stream, this is the last topic of this episode, and it is our predictions for 2022. Pachter already did his predictions. He did his prediction episode. He didn't. I think people will be disappointed in it, though, because it wasn't like, this is what I predict for Nintendo. This is what I predict for PlayStation. This is what I predict for Xbox. He looked at, like, big picture stuff, like what's going to happen with NFTs and the metaverse and all that kind of stuff. We're going to do, I think, predictions that you guys probably are more excited to hear about. We're going to tackle, like, the big 3. In fact, I made sure that I made a prediction about each of the big 3 in my predictions. Both of us have 5. Matt, what is your first big prediction for 2022?
I'm going to take a big, huge risk and say that PS5 continues its domination.
Yeah, and not a risky pick there.
No. I don't see anything changing that this year. We might be having a bigger conversation about that next year once Microsoft stuff starts coming out of the pipeline, and the year after that when the Activision thing starts paying dividends in terms of exclusivity. But like for 2022, I think PlayStation still has it all down on lock.
It all, or you just mean over Microsoft?
Over Microsoft at the very least, but I think Switch sales are going to slow down.
They will. They should.
And PlayStation is only going to go up because hopefully they get to be more plentiful, and people who are waiting to buy them can buy. I have a couple of friends who finally got one.
Yeah.
After a year.
I have a friend who just got one. I told him to get on the waiting list.
Yeah.
6 weeks later, they finally called him and said we have one.
Yeah.
And then he called me. He's like, "Thank you." Yeah. Because it saved me running around like a maniac trying to get it.
So once you get to a point, hopefully, I mean, that may not happen this year. We don't know, but hopefully, you get to a point where you can just walk into a store and buy one. But a lot of people that don't know how to navigate that hunting situation will finally be able to get one, and I think that's only going to go up.
Okay. I would absolutely agree with you that this year PlayStation 5 is going to dominate Xbox as far as hardware sales is concerned.
I mean, I don't think that's a question at all.
Yeah.
Like, there's just nothing for Microsoft to use to catch up in that regard.
But my first prediction for 2022 kind of goes against what you were saying, but you kind of clarified a little bit. And my prediction is that the Switch is still going to be the top-selling console of 2022. And there's a lot that goes into that. If there were ample supply of the PlayStation 5, I believe the PlayStation 5 would outsell the Switch, but there's not. And there's still not going to be. I don't know if you saw the numbers from last year, Matt, but the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S combined did not sell as much as the Switch last year. So while I do agree with you, I think sales are going to slow. I don't think they're going to slow that much because you have big games like Zelda coming out this year, Bayonetta 3. They have a pretty good software lineup this year.
I mean, you do hit a point where I'm like, who doesn't have this
one?
thing?
That's where they're hitting the wall.
But also, like, I asked that for years about the PS2, and it kept selling like crazy. I can ask that along. Same with a Wii. Like, who the hell didn't have a Wii, but it was still selling like crazy? Like there's always more customers out there. I guess. I don't know if Zelda 2 is the thing to bring them in. Necessarily, that seems like more for people who already own a Switch because Breath of the Wild was such a landmark game for the Switch, launch game for the Switch.
Yep.
And the fan base is hungry half a decade later to get another one.
Yep. Yeah. But most people, as you said, have the console already.
Yeah.
I still think
there's still some people people are clearly buying multiples.
Yeah, I mean, some of my nephews, their Switches are beat up. It's crazy. Like, and they still work, but their screens are just like massacred with just like smeared food and like throwing them down on the ground, and they're like they have gouges in their screens.
And that's the price of being a portable system.
Yeah, and like my sisters are like thinking about buying them another one, so that's definitely going to happen. And now the OLED is there, so there's actually a little bit of an upgrade, a little more incentive to buy one. It's just, I said this last week, I did not see a single Switch on store shelves over the Christmas holidays. Not one. The demand is still there for it, and with a strong software lineup and no supply constraints, because again, the tech is so flippin' old that they don't have to worry about competing for chips with other electronics. Like, all those factors, I believe Switch will be the best-selling console of 2022, despite the frothing demand for PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. All right, what's your second prediction for 2022, Matt?
Second prediction is that E3 2022 is almost literally nothing.
There's nothing.
Because now we...
So they're saying digital now, but you're saying that's not going to happen either.
I'm saying that this week it came out that no, they didn't. They didn't say that.
Oh, they didn't say that?
They hinted that they would thinking about doing that, but there is nothing planned.
Really?
That is the word, that there's nothing planned for that, and it may not happen at all.
Oh, wow. That might be the death of E3 then. If they have nothing.
Yeah. They
nothing
no
on
presence,
brand
no
at all.
anything. Because you know Jeff Keighley. You know that he was on that phone.
Oh, he's a shark in the water.
He was already on the phone before they even announced it. He was making those deals.
Blood in the water.
Locking that stuff down so they couldn't even show it on an E3 stream if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So there might if your option as the ESA is like, okay, we're not going to do an in-person thing, maybe we should do a digital thing. Oh, now we have to basically fight over Jeff Keighley's scraps now. Mm-hmm. Like, do you even want to do? That's not a good look either.
Not a compelling proposition,
no.
That's for sure. See, Andy T. Monahan's asking, can the Switch surpass the Wii's lifetime sales? It needs another 48 million. No, I don't think it will. Do you?
I don't know.
Vincent's
saying that it already did.
If it's true that it needs another 48 million,
I think he might be thinking of the DS.
Oh, he probably is then.
Yeah, there he says, wait, it might be the DS I'm thinking of. Yeah, DS is up there.
Yeah, if you're asking me if it's going to sell another 48 million units, no. I do not think it's going to sell another 48 million.
That would be difficult. Unless the new Switch is not a Switch 2 and it's considered part of the Switch.
Then maybe.
Maybe you could fudge that, I guess.
But you figure they're selling around 20 million a year right now. I don't know. Maybe it does get there eventually.
It could.
It would have to make it there in like 3-4 years, though, is my guess.
I think that just depends on how long Nintendo keeps it in production.
Yeah.
Give it enough years and it'll get there.
Eventually it'll get there. I mean, Sony's early kings at that. I would agree with you. Like, if there's no E3 at all, not even a digital version, then I would absolutely agree with you that E3 is probably dead. Mm-hmm. Because you're completely out of sight for 2 years after not having a show for 3 years.
4 years.
That's untenable.
Were it to come back as an event next year, it would have been 4 years since the last E3.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. It's funny that this B-roll of E3 2019 may
that's the last one, maybe.
Yeah. Like the last real E3. It makes me sad. It just does. Okay, let's get happy. Actually, my next prediction may not make happy. Some people happy. My next prediction is that Rare's Everwild is going to be canceled. This game has struggled. Rare has struggled to say what this game is. The game itself has struggled to show what it is.
They've outright admitted they don't know what it is.
They rebooted it and started the whole thing over a few months ago. I just wonder how much, and I've made this call before even we knew about the whole Microsoft Activision deal. Mm-hmm. Even before that, I just wondered how much patience Microsoft was going to have for a game like this. That's very arty and is just kind of struggling to find its footing. They don't really know what it is. Rare hasn't really made a lot of great games for quite a while. Some people really like Sea of Thieves. I thought it was okay.
I mean, Sea of Thieves has done well for them, though.
It has done well. It's just, this is a very risky project to me.
Yeah. I think Microsoft's kind of supportive of things like that, and especially if they've presented it to them as like, we don't know. We want to basically go on a giant fishing expedition to find what this game's going to be. Microsoft might be prepared for that, but it has been a while.
Didn't they bring in someone to work on this from like a studio that usually makes like really gory action games.
That sounds familiar, but I don't remember.
I think they hired someone from a team that was working on like M-rated stuff, and I was like,
At any rate,
how does that fit?
I think it might. I mean, it's possible they might cancel because certainly they're not afraid to do that. Look at Scalebound, but like, I don't know. Like if they're really angling for a prestige game from Rare, and especially because this would be like kind of Rare's comeback, and not that Sea of Thieves was bad, but like. This is for whatever reason. I think this is more in the lines of like what you would have hoped for an old Rare game in terms of like, oh, they did a new thing and it looks really visually striking. Nothing's got googly eyes on it.
I would expect this from the Viva Pinata era Rare, not from like the N64 era Rare. Yeah,
it would be nice to see this come to fruition, but it might. Be, Vincent says the designer of Alien Isolation.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so the horror game developer moved over to work on this. I mean, unless there's a lot of stealth in it, which it does appear that there's some stealth there.
Yeah, but who knows if it's there now? Like,
the game just has no direction. Like, I can't even describe to people what it is.
It seems like they've created a world and had to find a game in it.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it's a game in search of a concept.
Sorta, yeah.
Fortunately. So my prediction is that this game will never see the light of day, and it will eventually be canceled.
I don't know if I believe it'll be canceled, but I could definitely see it just never being mentioned again. Some point, which is pretty much the same thing.
And just leaving us to wonder. Yeah. Yep. Okay, what's your next prediction for 2022, Matt?
Next prediction is that a new mainline Mario debuts.
When and how do you think that'll happen?
I think that'll be happening in the second half of the year. I don't think it would necessarily come out this year, but I think we will see the next mainline Mario game this year.
The time's right.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years.
Since Odyssey.
It's been half a decade since Odyssey. It's time to show us what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, they should be ready to show
I think they will.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll come out this year. Probably
won't. There's a possibility, though.
But it could be. I mean, it would be fun to duplicate 2017. That had a Zelda and a Mario in the same year.
Yeah.
That was a good year for everybody, I think, including Nintendo.
It shouldn't take Nintendo as long to create a new Mario game as it does to create a new Zelda.
You'd think.
So, honestly, Matt, I would not be surprised if the next 3D Mario does come out this year. I just wouldn't be surprised at all. I think a lot will depend on when Zelda is released. I think if Zelda ends up coming to like in August or something like that, then sure, like you get Mario out. Didn't Odyssey release in December, if I remember correctly?
November.
Was it November? So the timing could work out if you can get Zelda out a little earlier. It all depends on where they are with that project and when they're going to release it. But I would not be
Zelda's release date will tell us one way or the other.
I believe so as well, whether it's coming this year or not. Yeah. If they say Q4, then I would say no way for Mario.
No, but I do think we'll see something this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Around E3-ish time, I'm guessing we'll see the first trailer of, I don't know if it'll be Odyssey 2 or who knows, maybe a whole new concept or whatever. I don't know for sure, but we are definitely due.
I think it'll be a whole new concept, but I do think it'll incorporate sort of some of the stuff in Odyssey. But I think, expect something with the scope of Odyssey, but with some of the concepts of Bowser's Fury.
Yeah, with the kind of pseudo open world stuff,
like that kind of thing. I think that's the direct because they've been playing with that direction too much for it not to be part of the plan.
That makes sense. Yeah, and Bowser's Fury is pretty good.
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised by that. Actually, I thought it was pretty impressive. So there you go. Matt thinks that we'll see the next mainline 3D Mario game before the end of 2022. My next prediction for this year, and this may disappoint Xbox fans, just like my last one. Unfortunately, don't think I'm picking on you guys. I have other predictions later on that focus on other platforms. My next prediction, though, is that Starfield is a disappointment at launch. And I don't think this is all that far-fetched. Because if you've played any other Bethesda games at launch, you know exactly where I'm going with this. The release date for this game is literally set in stone. It is in the trailer that you're watching right now. Literally in the trailer.
Carbon metal.
Embedded in the trailer. So, from my perspective, I believe that it's coming on November 11th, no matter what.
Yeah, and the other thing we know about Bethesda, I mean, maybe that philosophy has to change if they're owned by Microsoft's call.
Right.
Bethesda will totally release a broken game.
Right. They have no problem with it.
Yeah, and fix it later rather than miss a release date.
I mean, it's done it all the time.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I have a feeling this game is probably not going to be quite as polished as people would hope it's going to be. It's going to be released anyway. Will people hate the game because of it? I think it'll be just like Skyrim when it launched. Some people will be more angry about it than others. Some people will be like...
I mean, in the case of Skyrim, PS3 owners were angry because it didn't work.
Right.
But I don't think it'll be that drastic.
I don't either, but I think it could still be pretty janky.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see how people react to that. Obviously, Cyberpunk 2077 still sold in the millions. But I do think that...
But this is Game Pass, so you get to...
Right.
You get to experience the jank for practically nothing.
For pretty much nothing. And that might help.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It might actually make a difference. The fact that people are just paying for a subscription to play it versus paying the $70 to get the box version of it or whatever. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for Starfield at launch. I think it's going to show a lot of promise. And I think eventually it'll become an amazing game, just like Skyrim eventually did, that sells for years and years and years. I just think out of the gate, the prospects of it being really polished and really good and exactly how Bethesda wants it, I don't think the chances of that are good. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe just set your expectations down a notch for Starfield in certain areas. Like, don't expect it to be bug-free and crazy polished, but I think you can expect sort of the groundbreaking open-world design and some of the stuff that Bethesda's known for. Just, I don't think it's going to be bad. I just think some people are going to be pissed off when it comes out. And your next prediction, Matt?
This is an easy one, but no Switch Pro.
No Switch Pro.
Like, we're not going to see a new Switch.
Do you think there's ever going to be a Switch Pro, or do you think they're just
I think we're going to go straight to Switch 2 or whatever, the Super Nintendo Switch or whatever it is.
Okay. When do you think that's going to happen?
I think we will get a new Nintendo console in 2024.
2024. Man, that's a long time to stretch out that OLED screen.
It is.
But
you also think it's going to be the top seller of the year, so they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt them financially at all.
There's no reason not to let that ride.
Yeah.
If you're winning, don't rock the boat.
I do think the next Nintendo console will come out next holiday.
They traditionally do not do that on holidays.
They don't.
I think you're going to see it.
Or maybe
I think it's March 2024.
Like early 24, like they do with. Okay, I could agree with that for sure. Okay, that makes sense. But you're right. Why does Nintendo rarely release consoles?
And Metroid Prime 4 will be a launch game.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. If
we're lucky.
Yeah. Exactly. I hope so.
I do think we'll get that Prime remake this year, though.
You do?
I think that Prime 1 remake will come this year, yeah.
Okay. That would be awesome. I'm good to play Prime again now. Like, it's been so long. Like, I'm good to play it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will absolutely dive back in.
Honestly, I'd rather play a Metroid game I know is going to be great than Prime 4 right now. Like I'm excited about Prime 4, but also it's like, at least with Metroid Prime Remake, I know, like, okay, I have no doubts.
This
about
game is
anything.
amazing.
I'm just going to sit back and play this game and enjoy it again, and it'll be great.
Yep. They just look a little
maybe
better,
that's why
sound a little better.
Maybe that's why remakes are so popular now. People just want, like,
something they know is going to be good.
Comfort.
It's not going to get burned.
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay. My next to last prediction for 2022, and again, I made this prediction before we knew about Microsoft buying buying Blizzard and Activision. And my prediction is that bidding wars between Game Pass and PlayStation for third-party game exclusivity will be a huge thing by the end of the year. And that has already...
Technically, January is by the end of the year, so...
And, I mean, obviously, today's news huge in that front. But I think that, like, as we were talking about with Grand Theft Auto 6, like, these two, and now we've been hearing all the rumblings about the PlayStation Game Pass. It's actually a thing, and it's going to happen. They're going to be competing now for who can get the third-party games day and date on their service. And I think that's going to be become a prominent element of the industry going forward, is these negotiations with third parties to try to get the rights to Grand Theft Auto or whatever third-party game on their service first. And that really hasn't been a thing up to this point. As far as Sony competing with Microsoft to keep stuff away from Game Pass and vice versa, that's what I think you're going to start seeing. Like, where we used to see with money hatting to get console exclusives, now it's like money hatting for service exclusives. And I think Microsoft obviously heralded this on with its push for Game Pass and its kind of lack of emphasis on selling hardware, as it were. So I think that's going to be a thing going forward, is how much, and we may not even hear, like, how much did Microsoft offer when it didn't get that game, or how much did PlayStation offer when it didn't get that other game. It may be hard to find that information, but it's going to be going on behind the scenes, and I think we'll at least know that it's going on towards the end of this year, as we know more about PlayStation's revamp of PlayStation Now and its other services. So there you go. Matt, what is your last prediction for 2022?
Last prediction, also maybe pretty easy, but gaming NFTs are a huge bust.
Yeah.
You're already seeing that with people are not into it.
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft having some trouble already.
Tried to sell the Ghost Recon and it just nope.
Konami is doing it with they're getting heat. I mean, not that Konami cares because they don't make games anymore really.
The biggest problem for NFTs in gaming is that generally game players are really smart and really tech savvy.
Well, also and
so you're trying to sell something to people who know better.
Yeah. Well, also a lot of the rhetoric around the gaming NFT stuff is doesn't make any sense if you know anything about video games. It's like, oh, imagine owning Mario's hat and you just take Mario's hat. That's not how programming works. That's not. It doesn't
so
mean
nobody
anything.
else gets Mario's hat now.
Well, also the idea is oh, you can take this sword to this other game. No, you can't. That's not how anything works. And remember that an NFT is basically you are creating a database, which is essentially a lineup of people, and you are selling spots in that database.
Yeah.
And the art and stuff the gifts of Castlevania or whatever or whatever that is you're not selling them the rights you're selling them the right to basically stand near it.
Yeah.
And all you can do is I don't own this picture, I don't own this art, I don't own whatever this is. I own the right to stand next to it. I can't stop you from looking at it or saving it or copying it, but I can stand here. You are literally being sold nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's a scam.
Yeah.
The NFTs are a scam.
And consider there's there's something in the last several months, I think it's something I can't remember the number. It's 2.7 million NFTs, 3 million NFTs have been created. Guess how many people own those? 360,000. That's a pyramid scheme. And also 13 million people have invested in cryptocurrency and crypto stuff and the blockchain stuff.
Yeah.
So consider that of all the people that are involved or enthusiastic and involved in crypto, 0.01% do the NFT thing.
Yeah.
And the only thing that keeps NFTs valuable is being perceived as valuable.
Same as
so when
Bitcoin.
you wonder why...
Same as crypto coins.
Sure, but this even more so because at least Bitcoin is accepted as legal tender in a lot of places.
Right. Yeah.
But with NFTs, it's the only thing keeping the value up is perception, and in this case, the perception of a very small community. So when you wonder why the people that promote NFTs and believe in NFTs are screaming so loud and repeatedly and repetitively about how great they are, it's because it's a very small group of people trying to make this thing they've invested in more valuable so they can make money from it.
Yeah.
It's a...
Crypto is very much the same way.
It's somewhat, but it's there's more structure to it.
On social media, the crypto pump and dump schemes are everywhere.
Yeah, that happens.
I mean, that just happened.
And you're seeing more NFT stuff happen.
The celebrities like Kim Kardashian go on their Instagram. They're like, "Hey, I just bought this crypto coin. You should too."
It goes way up
and then it goes up, and then all the people who founded it sell all their crypto, and they're out, and it crashes. And a lot of what the
NFT thing is right now is trying to get the NFT quote unquote community to be big enough to have things like that happen in it.
Right.
Because right now it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
And you are starting to see real scams happen where because NFTs are not necessarily inherently a scam quote unquote, but they are a con.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing.
Yeah.
But there have been things where a lot of times I've seen a couple things where oh, we're doing a new run of NFTs of this particular run of art, and we're going to donate the proceeds to charity, and they make $1.5 million off of it, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
And the NFTs are all gone because they took their database with them, and there's it's all gone. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's gone.
Over.
Yeah. Pactor, we just published an episode of Pactor Factor today, right before I came in here. As I said, I've been busy AF for the last 2 days, and it's all about NFTs. And his big contention is until there's one wallet, meaning you have a wallet that works across everything, across Apple, Android, whatever, wherever you go, until there's one wallet, stuff like that's probably not going to work.
And that would have to be included in the wallet. Because right now, one of the things I think people don't really always get is that the blockchain's involved, but it's not on the blockchain in the sense that the database that you have bought that place in for the NFT, particular NFT run, is just a database somebody created and then made the blockchain aware of it. So the blockchain can confirm, yes, this person bought this place on that database, and then they sold it to this there's a record of that transaction, but it's not the same it's not the same thing as the way cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and stuff are handled in terms of who stores those and who it's even less secure in that regard. And the question though of where they lean in, it's like, oh, no one else can duplicate this space in this database. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like that's the problem. Like you can't make someone care about that until, as Pachter says, it's you know, if you could have a situation where you had like a universal wallet, and if someone could get the permission or the rights or whatever to create an NFT database in that wallet that then you could buy parts of or spaces on, that would be something that you could theoretically use as something with some sort of universally perceived value in terms of the people participating in this. But it's the Wild West right now. And
how about we create the one wallet and we all get rich?
Yeah,
because whoever invents the one wallet is going to be filthy rich.
You'd need to be one of the best negotiators in the world. Jeff Keighley.
What is the movie where they're just skimming like an eighth of a penny off of each sale?
Office Space.
Yeah. I forgot that was Office Space. Like, literally, you just skim. If you could just create the one wallet and you make 1/8 of a penny off each transaction.
We could go hang out with Gabe Newell.
Maybe. We still may not be rich enough to hang out with Gabe at that point.
Right, but we would be making our money the same way.
That's true. Okay, we got to wrap things up.
We just meet him down in New Zealand. He'd just be like, pretty sweet, huh, boys? Like,
and my final prediction for 2022 is that 2022, and I don't know how you can deny this now that we've done our 2022 preview for consoles and PC and third party. My prediction is that 2022 will rival 1998 as the best year for video game releases ever. I think it will be a legitimate conversation that we have to have, or we will have, about what was the best year for game releases ever. I mean, we just ran through, I don't know whether they're 35, like pretty much AAA third-party games. We ran through the first-party stuff from last week. This is going to be an amazing year for video game releases, quite possibly the best ever.
It's going to be up there.
It's going to be close. Some
stuff
still
could slip.
Stuff,
but there's also still a bunch of stuff we don't even know about
right.
yet. We don't know much about the second half of the year.
Some stuff could slip too, though.
Sure.
It could change it. But, man, I'm just telling you, I've been doing this for a long time, and this year is shaping up
just
to
the first 3
amazing.
months of this year is better than like all of last year combined.
Easily.
Almost.
Easily.
Like it's
Yep.
You know.
Hope you guys are ready. Hope you guys saved up some money over the
You're gonna throw me a Sony exclusive and a new Pokemon game and a new Souls game.
Yeah, that's all in the next week.
Yeah.
Basically, it's awesome. It is going to be a great year of video games. So what I was saying,
Q1 2022 is going to be a great year. That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah. So what I was saying earlier, that like all my predictions aren't bad or gloom and doom. This is what I was talking about. Yeah. This is going to be one of the best years for video games ever. And I'm really excited about it. So there you go. There are predictions for 2022. Okay, so here we are to talk about Rainbow Six Extraction. Now, you may have watched the show live on Twitch yesterday, and you're like, wait a minute, this wasn't in the show that I watched.
Yes, it was. Why don't you remember this?
To that we say, yes, it was.
What's wrong with you? Which timeline are you in?
Did you take the red pill? Yeah, so unfortunately this information was under embargo, and so we couldn't talk about it on the live stream. So Matt and I stuck around after the show to discuss Rainbow Six Quarantine.
Which is why it's suddenly darker outside
than
when it will be when we go back to the end of the show.
That's actually true. It'll be a little bit weird. But we need to explain to you guys why this is happening.
Because in this timeline, the sun sets different.
But that's funny. We always try to hit embargo if we can to get you guys information on games as soon as we can. And this was as soon as we could give you the information. And it worked out that we're going to be able to put it into GameFace 285 at the last minute. Matt, this is a cooperative... I struggle to call it a zombie shooter because I feel like when you say that, like visions of like Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood.
It's a co-op tactical shooter that happens to have zombies in it.
Right. The enemies could have been anything, really. Well, that's not true.
No,
because there's an element of the
mechanics
creatures.
I mean, like terrorists aren't spawned from pods generally, but there's it could have been aliens, or it could have been any inhuman thing. It could have been demons. It could have been anything.
Yeah. And essentially, what you do is you start, and when I first watched trailers for this, I really didn't think that there was going to be a lot of Rainbow Six in it. I thought it was going to be like this cooperative zombie shooter that they just slapped the license onto because they're like, we don't have anything else that it fits. And as it turns out...
Yeah, you thought it was going to be like Left for Clancy or something.
Yeah. And as it turns out, there actually is some tactical Rainbow Six stuff in this.
You can run and gun it, but you're going to have a hard time.
I think it would be really hard to run and gun it. Yeah. Because... essentially, it is a lot like playing Rainbow Six Siege in some ways. Like, when you first start a match, the smartest thing you can do in this is throw down your little drone and roll it through the map so that you can tag all the enemies, all the nests, which we'll talk about in a minute, which are really important to this game, and find, like, all the locations of the objectives and things like that. So, first thing you do, really, is just get your drone, roll it in through the map, tag all that stuff, and then you actually jump in and try to accomplish the missions. Now... I think my biggest gripe with this game is that the mission types are very repetitive. Now, I know you didn't get to play as much of it as I did, and the mission objectives in this do repeat frequently. But
I do at least appreciate that they rotate.
Yes.
Like they're not always doing the same kind of mission in the first section and the second section.
Yeah, because they're kind of dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things about this game is you have a list of operators. Again, very Rainbow Six-ish. You have a list of operators, and you choose your operator, and you go into the mission. And sometimes you will lose that operator for the next mission, even if you survive the mission.
Yeah, if you come back and extract when you're too hurt, they have to take a mission to recover.
Yeah, and... if you die while you're on the mission, that operator is completely off the grid for a while until you go in the next time and attempt to rescue that operator. So your operator dies in the mission. You get sent back out to the menu screen. You go back in. One of the objectives the next time you play is to rescue that operative. And it's a thing.
Yeah, they put them in a tree.
Yeah, it's not like you just run in there and like grab them and pull them back out.
You have to do a little mini game, basically.
Yeah, it's like a mini game where one player grabs the operative and tries to pull them out of these vines, and the other character or another player shoots these pulses of like, is it electricity or blood or I don't even know,
like some kind of energy sort of thing.
Yeah, like these things start.
It's held on by these anchors that then send pulses of power to the tree, and that pulls the operative back in, and basically you have to stop those pulses, and you can blow the anchors up, but they will respawn. But basically you want to blow those up to all at once enough that you have enough time to pull the operative out of the tree, and then take them to the extraction pod where they get rescued.
Yeah, so you take them out to the helipad.
You can do it single player. You can do it solo, but it's more difficult.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult. In fact, this whole game, playing it by yourself is extremely difficult, and I do not recommend it at all.
No.
Because you will get a good way into one of these missions and die. So we were talking earlier about how there are these nests, and they're basically these like pods. They almost look like Bulbasaur, honestly, from Pokemon, that when you send your drone in, you can mark them. And what you want to do, this game is really all about stealth. Going in guns blazing, like I've tried it a couple times, it ended me real quick. So you want to send your drone in, mark all that stuff, and then creep around the map. And you want to basically melee these nests, because if you don't, if you fire your gun next to them and they wake up, they will spawn enemies, and that's how you die in this game.
Yeah, with the normal enemies, you can headshot them fast enough, and they'll go down, and you don't have to worry about it. I mean, I've done that plenty. It's like 4 in a row, just pop, 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 and you're done.
And the enemies don't take much damage, but neither do you.
But the nests take a fair amount of damage, and they can send their pulse out to alert nearby things if you don't do it fast enough. So it's safer to just stab them.
Yep. And and on the flip side, if you have an operator who has a silencer on their gun, instead of using your knife to blow up the nest or to cut the nests or whatever, you can use your gun and shoot them from a distance, and that's a huge advantage. But
I prefer to stab them, though, even if I have that.
It's more satisfying.
More satisfying. A bunch of little XP things pop up on the screen, and it's just easier to sort of work your way through.
Yeah. And that's really how this game is. It is a room-by-room, breach clear. It's not, I know, I felt the same way. I thought it was just Left 4 Dead with Tom Clancy's name on it. It is not. It's not that. It's not World War Z. It's not Back 4 Blood. It really is like playing a cooperative version of Rainbow Six Siege, except the other team are like zombies.
Yeah.
That's the best way to
describe it.
Because
it has sieges like wall destruction and all. Like
Yep.
The battlefield can be rearranged if you don't know what you're doing.
Because one of the most popular mission objectives in the game, as I was alluding to earlier, they're pretty repetitive. One of the ones you see a lot is, hey, here's this thing, protect it, while swarms of zombies come in. And in those areas with those missions, you can go and like build like a wall or a door over an open doorway. You can fortify windows. You can do all the stuff that you expect to do in Rainbow Six Siege, but in the context of this cooperative shooter. There are like four different areas that you can play through, and each area has
5. I think there's one down.
Is
at the
there
bottom
5?
Too.
Well, the one is the post game.
Okay.
So I think there's like 4. There's 4 or 5
4 main
areas.
ones, and there's a different one at the bottom.
Yeah, and each one of those has like 3 or 4 missions in it. It doesn't take that long to finish the game. Like, I think I've played 6 hours at this point, and I'm almost done. But it's a cooperative game, and you've played with different operators, because the other thing, too, is that every operator has different loadouts. Now, eventually, you can unlock different guns and different attachments for the guns. When you first start, though, when you're using those operators, one has a shotgun, one has an LMG, one has an assault rifle with a silencer, one has an SMG, one has just a pistol, but then has this other stuff that they can do. So it is very
They've all
much,
got some kind of gadget that does something specific.
So it is kind of that character-driven, like...
And you level all those things up as you play, and you get other abilities unlocked as they level up. And there's like an experience track for the entire game that like levels up the organization. What is the React?
React, yeah.
We
didn't even talk about the story.
Yeah, levels up the whole organization, so you get perks that way, which unlocks new tech and things.
The story, there's really the story elements in this. There are opening cinematics, and there are flashy like pre-rendered CG stuff.
Like the first time you select menu items.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you go to the tech tab, and it's like the leader of React walks through and talks to the lead scientist, and it's all flavor. It's just,
right.
Yeah.
It's just window dressing.
Yeah.
After that, it all goes away. The story is that suddenly the Earth was overtaken by this weird growing
parasite
thing. And one thing that is cool about this game is that...
Who hate America, I might add. They destroy the Statue of Liberty and the American flag. First thing. That's their first move.
It is funny how like Europe is like, you want to know how we get the Americans engaged in this? We have it take down the Statue of Liberty.
We rip the head off the Statue of Liberty and kill the poor man buying a snow globe about New York City.
Yeah. One thing that is cool about this game, though, is that ooze, that parasite ooze, grows dynamically throughout the level while you're playing. It's creepy to just stand there and watch it grow up the wall and slowly envelop like the whole room.
Yep.
And it slows you down if you walk in it, but you can shoot it.
You're kind of like, why don't none of you have a flamethrower?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Maybe eventually you get an operator that has one.
There are, I think, 3 other teams of 3, I think, operators you unlock as you level up the organization.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I still haven't discovered it, although I got close. I got to one point where I only had like 3 operators left. Like, I don't know what happens when you run out of operators. I was close. Like, I got to the point because
I bet there's something that's just like, oh, randomly they pick one. It's like, another team extracted this one, and you can use him now.
Yeah, maybe. And we ran into problems,
or they're
too.
just like, start over, you loser.
Yeah. We ran into problems with the netcode.
Yeah, we had a couple of weird things there.
Which really sucked because one time I launched a game, Matt got dropped when the game was launching. I got put into the game, and I immediately wanted to quit because I wanted to play with Matt, and playing by yourself, again, is a fool's errand. And so I immediately wanted to quit, but when I quit, it penalized me. I lost the operator that I had taken into that map, and they took away like one of my other attributes, and there's no way around it. Is either I play that mission by myself, and come what may, or I leave and I get punished for it. And so I left because I wanted to play with you, and
you couldn't like just extract from that point?
No, couldn't do anything. Like, they're basically like, go finish the mission, and if you don't want to finish it, then this is your punishment. And I chose the punishment and lost my operator and
that one real weird. I had to have to restart the game, and like
we had problems with
a lot of voice chat issues.
Now keep in mind, this game
although
isn't out yet.
once of it was it's not out yet, but like also one time my PS5 did that LAN cable not connected thing that the PS5 does all the time.
Yeah.
Where it's like
I've never had that problem, but I've heard a lot of people
that happens to me. Not super common. Also, it doesn't matter much because I'm usually not playing online games. But like periodically, it'll do that. It'll do it like 7 times.
Wow!
And finally go back to normal.
I've never had that problem.
And there's nothing. The cable's still in there. Internet's fine. It's literally just some of the PS5s do that.
Weird.
Hopefully they find a way to fix that because it's very annoying. If I played online games more, I would be much more irritated by it because it happens more often than I like.
Yeah. How did you feel about this game in general, Matt?
I more or less liked it. Like it, I don't care about multiplayer stuff too much, but and I certainly didn't care about another zombie game. But the stealth element worked, and kind of the individual operators did feel different, which I mostly noticed when I was forced to use other ones when one of them got killed or hurt.
I thought the aiming sucks.
I thought the aiming was pretty good.
Oh, you liked it? It felt really sluggish to me.
I was popping heads off like crazy.
Okay.
Even when one of them would attack you, I got a headshot on most of the guys who were jumping on you. So that partly is because their heads glow, which makes it an easy target.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the aiming was real good.
We should also mention how death works in this. So you can get downed once, and then they can revive you. Or if you have an operator who has a stim, he can revive himself or
and you
herself.
can build a revive stim thing as well.
You can.
As a tech thing, but then you lose your drone.
Right.
Because it replaces the same slot.
Yep. If you go down a second time, you're done.
Yeah.
And that leaves whoever's left to try to finish the mission. And they can actually...
You can extract you.
Your dead teammate. You can then pick up, take him out to the helipad, put him in the little pod thing, and he will get sent. And then you'll still get some rewards from the mission if you do that. There's lots of little cool nuances in this game. And there are way more elements that tied it into Rainbow Six Siege than I ever expected. It does feel very similar. My opinion, the gunplay in Siege feels way better. I feel way more connected to my guns in that game than I do in this one. I felt like in this, the aiming was slow. And maybe that's because I play a lot of Call of Duty. And then when I do play other shooters, I do tend to turn up the sensitivity a little bit. I like the aim to be more sensitive. And this felt slow and sluggish to me, particularly when I was using a shotgun or
I never used a shotgun.
Or an LMG. They were kind of sluggish to get around. But overall, I felt like it played fine. I never felt like I died because of the controls or anything like that.
Yeah, it was always because there was guys got alerted and we didn't realize they were over there.
And it's very easy because if you send your drone in, you're not going to get everything because the battery will die before you make it through the whole level. But it kind of gives you this false sense of security of oh, we already scanned this, so I'm good. And then you go running into a room, and sure enough, there's one sitting there, and then the zombies come in because you've alerted them with the nest. So I think I mostly enjoyed my time with this game, Matt. I liked that it was, one, it actually had some Rainbow Six flavor.
Yeah.
And that was surprising to me. And two, that it's different. Because I feel like every week there's a new cooperative shooter announced. We just did the 2022 third-party games preview for the year. How many cooperative shooters out of the 30-some games that we previewed were cooperative shooters? 8, 9? Yep. A third of the games? I just feel like they're all starting to bleed together, but this one actually does feel and play differently. I had a lot of preconceptions about it before I played it. They were wrong. It plays differently and feels differently than I expected. And that's good because my expectations were pretty low. So I would say playing it, I like it more. But there's just something, it's very slow paced, very grindy. You have to communicate a lot with your teammates.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play this with pickup randoms.
Nope. Because they'll just grief. They'll just run through and just trip all the nests.
I can't even imagine pulling somebody out of a tree with randos.
I couldn't either.
How would you coordinate that?
I don't.
They'd have to be cooperating, basically.
Yeah, they would have to. And we all know how that goes, people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to function out in the wild. However, this game is on Game Pass day one. So a lot of people are going to be able to try it. That's my Apple Watch. A lot of people are going to be able to try this for free, basically. And I would wholeheartedly recommend, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, absolutely download it and play it. Because I do think there are some people who are going to be like, I don't really like most of these cooperative shooters, but I like this one.
I did like it. I don't know if I'd play it further because I don't have a group of people to play it with. But it takes up a little more space in the hard drive than I'd like. But no, it was fun.
It has a little bit of the Division in it with the whole extraction thing and the risk reward.
Yeah, and the thing, push it a little further, get more tech, get you more stuff to upgrade your thing, and you can go push further next time. That's
the rub of it. Yeah.
The push your luck thing is sort of the key to the
because each mission, you have at least 3 objectives.
Yeah. But the nice thing is that
you can only complete one if you want and go back to the extraction point. But
and the nice thing is because they wrote, the mission objectives do repeat eventually. There's not that many different mission types, but you're not always doing the same thing in the second phase of the mission. It's like you got to push on to the next thing. Like your decision,
it's going to be something different.
Your decision to push on might depend on what that mission's going to be,
and
it's different every time. So it's not like you're going to get stuck at some point. Well, no, we got to get through this and succeed at this so that we can have enough, have enough life left to. Go in and do the stupid extraction thing next time.
And they tell you what they are.
Yeah.
So it's not like
you always know what you're
going
in
blind. You know what you're getting into. You know whether you have a chance to complete the mission or not before you attempt it. And that's all you can ask, really.
And there's some fun thing.
That risk and reward I thought was pretty compelling.
And I liked that, we sometimes it did go, I'll turn right over and go crazy. And one time we were supposed to capture an elite monster and they ambushed you. We didn't know where they were, and Sony came at me. So Shane went down, so I just ran, and I got to the helipad, and then it was like, oh, what do we? And I'm standing on this thing. It's like, oh, you got to hit this thing to trap the monster.
And it came running out.
It came just running out. I'm like, boink, and it's like fell over. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Yeah.
That's part of the game we haven't mentioned yet, the biology part of it, where you're trying to figure out what the parasite is, and it's like this whole meta part of the game.
Yeah, and I actually didn't realize I could have gone back in because I'd killed a bunch of things clearing the way for that thing to come out.
Yeah,
I could have gone back in and picked you up
and brought me and put me in the little capsule
I didn't
or
realize
whatever.
That.
Yeah. So it's different.
Yeah.
It made me think in ways that most cooperative shooters don't.
And it's also there's an element that's interesting of it where it is hard and you can die fast if you don't pay attention. But hope is rarely completely lost if at least one person is up.
Because the enemies, literally most of them, at least on the difficulty we were playing on, 1 or 2 shots are dead.
Yeah.
They're not bullet sponges where you have to fill them full of lead. You headshot them, they go down. Just pop, 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 you can do it. And you're right, that helps balance it out. But I would say this too, it's hard. We hardly completed any missions, and we were playing on the easiest difficulty setting. And I played with Johnny Hurricane for a while, and we had trouble completing missions. It's not, even on the easiest setting, it is not an easy game.
No.
So you playing with randoms, good luck. I was playing with bros, and it was still challenging. And we were chatting, and we were on the voice chat.
Yeah, if you got somebody just running through, setting off all the nests and stuff, you're just not gonna...
Easiest game to be agree forever.
Yeah,
pretty much. If someone gets fed up and I'm tired of plodding along, and they just run through the map, it's over. That's all it takes, because you'll trip all the nests, and then they'll all come out, and blah blah blah. So I did have fun with it. I probably wouldn't pay a lot of money for it because there really is no single-player campaign. You can play it by yourself. It's hard as balls, and it's not that fun because there's no context for it. It's like you get the opening cinematic, the story never really comes back. So you're just basically trudging through mission after mission if you play it by yourself. So there's only really value in this game if you do want to play with others, and it's a max of 3 players cooperatively. You have 3-player squads, which is perfect for the way the game works. But just stuff to know before you go in and decide to pull the trigger. If you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, or I think a PC Game Pass subscriber, it's going to be there day one. So you can just download it, give it a spin. If it's not for you, just delete it. But we cover this stuff more for the people who are thinking about buying the full version, maybe people who are PlayStation owners or whatever. Would you recommend somebody buy this, Matt?
I mean, I wouldn't for full price.
I wouldn't either.
It's not really my thing.
Yeah. It is kind of my thing, but it's hard to recommend it a full price purchase.
If you really want a good version of Aliens, Fireteam, whatever that was.
Hey, this is probably better than that.
Yeah.
It's more tactical, that's for sure. Yeah. That was more of a run and gun with a little bit of thoughtfulness put in there. But this is definitely the most thoughtful of the cooperative shooters, if that makes sense.
But it also means you're going to need 2 people that are willing to play ball.
The way they're supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, this game would probably be a nightmare. So pass on you buying it full price. Pass on from me buying it full price.
Get it in 6 weeks when it's like $40.
And it probably will be.
Yep.
Or just $13 for 1 month of Game Pass. It's an easy recommendation. You'll get your 13 hours of entertainment just out of that game easily. Even if you play it for just a day, you'll get tons of hours out of it. And so it's probably worth it in that context, but paying full price for it, that's a pass from the both of us. It's time for Name That Game. For those of you who don't know what Name That Game is, maybe you're new, you're checking out our live stream for the first time ever. Name that game. You try to beat Matt at naming a game. I give you clues. You try to figure out what the name of the game is. You may say he has an advantage. He's sitting here with me. You have a huge advantage. You have Google. He does not. You win all ties, so if he guesses the name of the game and I look over and it pops up in chat immediately thereafter, you guys get the win. If you beat Matt, you get a 6-pack of Sifted stickers that we will ship anywhere in the world, literally anywhere. So it doesn't matter where you are right now or what time of day or night it is. If you win, name that game right now, we will send you the stickers. I promise. And with that, it's time to get into it. I'm not sure if this one's easy or hard. I do think that my clues suck. I could not come up with great clues for this game. So hopefully, like I said when we started this stream, bear with me a little bit today. I have had an insane workload to get through to get to this point today. So here we go. Play the Name That Game jingle, courtesy of Sneaky Shala Snake. And we're ready for the first clue. Are you ready, Matt?
Yeah.
Let me get the chat up on screen so everyone can know we're on the up and up. And here comes the first clue. The ultimate comb-over. The ultimate comb-over. Let's look at chat here. Pitfall. Nope. Half-Life 3. Nope.
Leisure Suit Larry, that's a good pick.
Leisure Suit Larry, no, that is a good one. I like your name too, Sweet Cheeks Magoo. That's a great screen name. Leisure Suit Larry, no. Crash Bandicoot, no. Old Men, no. GTA 5, no. That's a good one too. Okay, it doesn't look like you guys are going to get it. I think you'll like that clue though once you figure out what the actual game is. Uncharted, no. That's a good one too. Okay, clue number 2. It's great no matter which time... Sorry, let me read that again. It's great no matter which time of day you play it. It's great no matter which time of day you play it. And the first clue was the ultimate comb-over.
Boktai.
Not Boktai. That's a good one too, though. That's a good guess. Again, the second clue is it's great no matter which time of day you play it. And the first clue was the ultimate comb-over. Skyrim, no. MGS2, no. Terraria, no. Pokemon, no. Commander Fett got it. Bayonetta.
Because she's covered in hair. That's
yep,
right.
The ultimate comb-over. And then it's great no matter which time of day you play it. Which time. Yes. The rest of the clues, the next clue was Guns of Herb. Because you know her guns are called parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. The fourth clue was it wickedly weaves torture into the gameplay. The wicked weave is one of the moves, and then the torture moves, there was another one. And then the final clue was instead of Beyonce, she is our Queen Bey. And that would have given it away, Bayonetta. Yeah. But that was good. Good job to get that.
And it ties in with the comb part, because Queen Bee. Queen Bee, Queen Bey.
But Commander Fett, you won. Let me give you your well-deserved round of applause. Again, you can send me a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter. You can go at Shane@sifted.net. There's a million ways to reach us. Just make sure that you give us your full real name and your full address. Make sure you include, if you're overseas, your province or any other important information, your zip code, your postal code, all that stuff. It'll make it much easier. Let's look at some of the other guesses. He's the only one who got it, by the way. No Man's Sky, Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, It Takes Two, Dragon Warrior, Parappa, Death Stranding, Mario. You were the only one that got it. People say good clues. I'm giving myself a round of applause for that one. I'll take any compliments I can get. I need them at this point. I'm frazzled with all the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes here at Sifted. Okay. We'll do a couple questions before we do the Sifted Fantasy Draft for 2022. Let's see. Here's one from Mike's Q. Oh, I meant to grab a beer with you during your layover, but my son Jack Robin Ryder Novak. Is that really his name? Jack Robin Ryder Novak was born on the 4th, 4 minutes after getting to the hospital. Congratulations, man. Actually, you deserve a round of applause for that.
Especially since with a name like that, he is definitely going to be a space commander.
No doubt about it. He'll be in Mass Effect 7 or something like that. So congratulations, and I am sorry that we missed each other. He had sent me a message, and I did see it, but I was basically on call trying to get on a flight. Like, I couldn't go anywhere because we were afraid at any minute that Alaska Airlines would call us and be like, okay, you're on this flight here in 3 hours. You need to get down to D.C., blah, blah, blah. So I was basically just locked down at home for that entire time. JM Rain, thank you for gifting all those subs to the people who show up to watch the show live. That's amazing. Next question. One Supermaster Gamer, what do you guys think of the G4 controversy? Are you aware of what they're talking about?
I imagine it's related to when, what's her name, Froke?
Yeah, it's about a rant that she did about basically scumbag gamers.
Yeah, being women in gaming, basically.
Yeah. I stand with her.
Yeah.
It's bullcrap.
I do see some people's point about G4 being the platform for that is a little sketchy because, let's face it, we kind of, in the old days, sort of helped create that environment.
Well, here's one thing I would say, Matt. I would not say we. Like, I don't, like, if you go back and watch old episodes of X-Play.
Yeah, X-Play didn't really do that.
It's pretty benign. And that's what we worked on.
Right.
I will agree. Attack of the Show was typical lowbrow, dude bro, TNA.
I mean, it's
content.
true. A lot of the quote-unquote counter arguments to her rant have been gifts from Attack of the Show.
Right. And
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, she's working on X-Play. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's comparing apples to oranges. Maybe I'm wrong. But she made a good point. And it's funny because they're running into the same thing that we ran into when we created X-Play, which was people could never understand that it wasn't Adam and Morgan reviewing every game. So what's happening to her is that people are saying, oh, your opinion sucks. You don't want to know what you're talking about. While she's reading a script that somebody else wrote. And Adam, who does the same thing, reads reviews and scripts that other people wrote because you don't have enough time to review everything.
No.
They give him a pass. They don't say your opinion sucks. Even though the opinions are coming from other people, her contention is...
The same people in a lot of
right.
cases.
Her contention is, you're saying my opinion sucks because I'm a female. And she's probably right.
Yeah.
So those people can F off, as far as I'm concerned. And I know people are like, oh, you're going to lose your audience. Do you really want those people, like, as a part of your community?
Yeah, and G4 has made it pretty clear that they don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, I understand the skepticism of it coming from G4 and that kind of thing. And G4, the new version of G4 does need to prove that they do stand behind her and do, I have no doubt that she believes what she's saying. I believe the other hosts when they say that they stand with her. I think she's completely correct. But, like, G4 as an entity needs to now prove that they are going to put their money where her mouth is.
I think another thing, too, about working with talent is, and I don't want to blame anything on talent, but talent a lot of times get what they allow. So we worked on X-Play with Morgan. The stuff that they did on Attack of the Show, I would never even consider bringing that up to Morgan.
No.
I would have never dreamed of going to her and being like, hey, will you lick this PSP? Or like any of the other hyper-sexualized stuff that they did on Attack of the Show. Because she laid the groundwork. Like, I knew her. I knew that there were things I would never suggest for her to do on camera. You just wouldn't. And I feel like some of the hosts on Attack of the Show were more open to those ideas, and therefore it just happened.
Well, also the Attack of the Show is more top-down about it. There's like, do this or we'll find someone who will.
That's true.
You
That's
know?
true. We were more of like a family working on X-Play.
Whereas with, like, I know one of the more famous reviews that still pops up now and again is the X3 review with all the cock stuff. The alien race in that is called the cock.
I vaguely remember that.
I wrote a script that was just full of dick jokes. Like,
Yeah.
it's all, and Morgan was going to read it, and I remember going to her and saying, like, you don't have to say anything in this script if you don't want to. Change it however you want, cut whatever line, whatever you want. And to her credit, she read the whole thing. I'm like, I didn't think you were going to do some of these. I put a couple things in there that I thought you would say no to, so for buffer zone. And she's like, no, it was all really funny. So I read, and that was how that worked. But like, no, that was definitely it's also a product of the time. Like, it was just not a thing anybody talked about.
Yep.
And it worked out very. There's a lot of women who worked at the old G4 who came out of it with a lot of bad stories and a lot of bad experiences and some legitimate trauma. And I understand that they are not pleased to see someone saying that on the new G4 and not feeling like that the company has made enough of an effort to prove that they're different than their previous incarnation. Like, that is a valid concern.
I'm honestly not aware of any of the stuff that you're talking about. Maybe I left before it got to where people were.
Well, a lot of the people in question were there after you, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can only take one more because, again, we have so much more to get to on this stream before it's all said and done. Here's a good one from the best screen name, Sweet Cheeks Magoo. Have you ever had a reviewer not being able to finish a review because the game was too hard? What are the consequences? What do you do if you were assigned to review Elden Ring? Yes, I've had people miss deadline before. But most times when they miss deadline, I had a suspicion that they were going to miss deadline. Because either I, as an assigning editor, gave them too much and kind of knew that I had given them a little bit too much on their plate, or they had told me before that I'm not really good at these types of games, or I have a bunch of other assignments right now. It's going to be hard for me to fit it in. So as an assigning editor, I would often have a pretty good idea that they were going to come in late. As far as the consequences are concerned, like if I know that and then they in fact do not get it in time, there's no consequences at all. If a writer or a freelancer tells you that they're going to get it done, no problem, and you give it to them instead of somebody else, because a lot of times I would talk to a freelancer and be like, hey, I have someone else who can handle this. So if you're tight on time, you don't think you're going to be able to get to it, just let me know and be honest with me so I can get it to somebody else, because all that matters to me is that we get it up at embargo. And if they would basically lie to me and be like, no, I'm good, and then deadline comes and they're like, I need another day or two, the repercussions would be that they would be lower on the totem pole generally to give assignments to. Because it would just be at that point, like, my ass is on the line to get the stuff done on deadline. With X-Play, it was really on the line. Because we had to create 3 episodes a week, and if my shit didn't come in, there was no content for episodes. It's all scheduled out like weeks in advance. So if you burn me, you're going to take a drop down on the totem pole, and like maybe you don't get an assignment for a little while, and when you do get an assignment, it's not one of the big games that you used to handle for our publication. So, and it's not vindictive, it's just covering your butt as an assigning editor. Like, it's my butt in a sling if one of my guys don't come through. And so if I felt like I could not trust somebody anymore, I'd slide them down, and I'd slide up the person who told me they could hit the deadline, and they did. It's very simple. It's nothing personal. It's like you oversold how much time you had to get the project done. You couldn't get it done. Now I'm the one paying the price. So when that happens, you just don't trust that writer as much as you used to, and you act accordingly. Anything to add to that?
Not really. I mean, that didn't happen much. Also, like, a lot of games didn't get finished when they got reviewed.
Yeah.
Like, which is not something I was thrilled about, but I did learn that over the course of a period of time where, like, people were, especially the big JRPGs, like the reviews would come back and they'd give us, often the reviewers would give us saves to like use to like capture footage, and I'm like, these saves are like 15 hours in, like they're not.
And if that stuff happened too, like when I was there, like they would also drop down the totem pole.
Yeah,
but I don't remember that happening too often when I was there, honestly. Like because it was our policy that you had to finish the games.
It definitely was not for a time.
Yeah.
And the one time I backed out of a review was Demon Souls.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before.
Someone gave me Demon Souls, and I took it home for a day or two or something, and I went back and was like, I am not going to be able to finish this. I'm not going to get through this. Like, I can't. I don't know what I'm fucking doing.
Yeah.
So they gave it to a freelance. But again, that was one day later, 3 weeks from deadline. So it was different. It wasn't a problem in the end.
Yep.
It also, no one cared. Like, that was the other thing. Was like, it's weird to think about it now, but like, no one gave a shit when Demon Souls review aired.
Right. And now they did.
Now they
back
would.
And watch
now, he's mentioning Elden Ring. The answer to that question is I would not accept an assignment to review Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't either. You'd have to pay me a lot of money.
Yeah. And I did. I mean, like I said before, the time if Dark Souls finally clicked with me was when I accepted. Adam actually asked me to review it for Rev 3. And he's like, you're the only one I trust with this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know why, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Play it either.
But I did take it on for him. So, and like, I remember there were a couple times like in that game where I'm just like, I'm never gonna get there.
How am I gonna do this? Yeah.
But I played that I played it all day for like a week and a half. Like I just went, it's all I did.
That's what you do. You just buckle down and you grind.
And I think I got paid like $125.
You get it done.
Nothing.
You have to stay up overnight. You do it.
Yeah.
That's just what you do. It's your reputation.
And it all worked out okay. More or less, I finally, there was a point where I'm like, oh, and then like, I'm glad I did it because it gave me one of my favorite genre, I don't know what you call it, like sub series, I guess. Mm-hmm. If you want to count Bloodborne and Sekiro as kind of part of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sorry I did it, but that is a rare happy ending to that situation in a freelance review situation.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 285. Again, don't forget, if you watch the archive tomorrow, we'll have a whole extra section in this show covering Rainbow Six Extraction. Thanks to everybody who hung out on the stream. Make sure you stick around because we're going to do our sifted video game fantasy draft for 2022 right after. We're going to have about a 5-minute break. Matt and I are going to hit the bathroom, maybe get a drink, but the stream is going to stay up. So if you need to hit the bathroom or get a drink, you can do that as well. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. If you're watching this show on YouTube or you're listening to it on any of the podcast services, because it is on all of them, and you'd like to help us out, please head to patreon.com/sifted. You can pledge as much or as little as you want. Every dollar matters to us. We really, really care about it. You're not just a number to us. And if you can't help us financially, you can always just subscribe with Twitch Prime to our Twitch channel. If you're watching on YouTube, that is down in the description. We could really use all your help. Again, our Patreon is the lowest it's ever been. It's down to like $3,700 right now. It's insane. But we're trying to survive here. So every dollar makes a big difference for us, and we would really appreciate it. Literally, if you can just give us $1 a month, if enough people do that, it could actually make a nice little bump in our revenue, and we'd really appreciate it. So again, stream's going down for about 5 minutes, so stream's staying up for 5 minutes, but we'll be gone for 5 minutes. So hang around for our Sifted Video Game Fantasy League draft. We'll see you in 5 minutes. GameFace is up and out.